I choose to be drug-free.
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 We choose to be drug-free.
Athenians, let us all make the right choice and take a stand against illegal drugs for our personal safety, well-being, and peace in our community. Watch the Anti-Illegal Drugs webinar via Zoom and ISSUP's Facebook YouTube live stream.
Hello Ateneans! To ensure a smooth running webinar for both the speaker and the audience, please be reminded of these following house rules. Number 1. For the entire duration of the webinar, kindly turn off or mute your microphones to avoid interrupting the presenter. Number 2. Be on time. Once you have joined the Zoom session, please refrain from leaving and attend the entire duration of the webinar. Number 3. To raise your queries, you may type them in the chat box of the platform you are using. Kindly refrain from posting comments unrelated to the topic. Number 4. The moderator will be acknowledging your questions and directing them to our speakers during the open forum. Number 5. When participating in the open forum, be mindful of your background and your background noise. Number 6. We will be releasing the link of the evaluation form at the end of the webinar. Number 7. Please note that we will only be issuing e-certificates to those who have registered, confirmed attendance, and completely filled out the evaluation form. Number 8. Use your real name and follow the prescribed format for proper documentation, if any. Number 9. Unless you are permitted by the organizer, please do not record any part of the webinar. And number 10. Please give us a week to prepare your e-certificate to be sent via email. Thank you and enjoy the webinar.
I choose to be drug-free.
I choose to be drug free.
I choose to be drug free.
I choose to be drug free.
I choose to be drug-free.
I choose to be drug free.
I choose to be drug free.
I choose to be drug free.
We choose to be drug-free.
Athenians, let us all make the right choice and take a stand against illegal drugs for our personal safety, well-being, and peace in our community. Watch the Anti-Illegal Drugs webinar via Zoom and ISSUP's Facebook YouTube live stream.
Hello, Ateneans! To ensure a smooth running webinar for both the speaker and the audience, please be reminded of these following house rules. Number 1. For the entire duration of the webinar, kindly turn off or mute your microphones to avoid interrupting the presenter. Number 2. Be on time. Once you have joined the Zoom session, please refrain from leaving and attend the entire duration of the webinar. Number 3. To raise your queries, you may type them in the chat box of the platform you are using. Kindly refrain from posting comments unrelated to the topic. Number 4. The moderator will be acknowledging your questions and directing them to our speakers during the open forum. Number 5. When participating in the open forum, be mindful of your background and your background noise. Number 6. We will be releasing the link of the evaluation form at the end of the webinar. Number 7. Please note that we will only be issuing e-certificates to those who have registered, confirmed attendance, and completely filled out the evaluation form. Number 8. Use your real name and follow the prescribed format for proper documentation, if any. Number 9. Unless you are permitted by the organizer, please do not record any part of the webinar. And number 10, please give us a week to prepare your e-certificate to be sent via email. Thank you and enjoy the webinar.
Hello, everyone. Are you ready to take a stand against illegal drugs? Then you are in the right place. Welcome to I Choose to be Drug Free, a webinar on anti-illegal drugs. My name is Jackie Luis Asina, and I'll be your host of this journey toward a safer and healthier campus. As we all know, illegal drugs pose a serious threat to our physical and mental well-being, as well as yung safety ng ating mga communities. We believe that promoting a drug-free campus is not just the responsibility of the university, but also the duty of every student. Kaya naman we have organized this webinar para matulungan ang mga estudyante na maintindihan ang importansya ng paglayo sa illegal na droga. So throughout this webinar, we will hear from an expert in the field of drug prevention and addiction recovery. They will share their insights on the impact of drugs on individuals, families, and communities, and provide practical tips on how to stay drug-free. So guys, I am sure that this webinar will be fun, eye-opening, and informative experience for everyone, and that it will inspire us to take action towards a safe and drug-free campus. So, chill lang kayo dyan and get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered as we tackle one of the most pressing issues of our time. So, to formally open this online event, may I invite everyone to settle down and feel the presence of the Lord for the opening prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, Sir Joseph Raboriano and the University Choir for that heart-warming prayer. Ayan. Once again, hello, dear Athenians, and hello to our participants coming from different schools and sa ating mga viewers in our Admin Osta YouTube channel. Sana okay kayo dyan and you guys continue to be safe and well. So the Office of Student Affairs and Ateneo Higher Education Health Services Office, in cooperation with the Bicol Council of Deans and Directors of Student Affairs and Services, are proud to present to you this anti-illegal drugs webinar. So this webinar serves as a tangible manifestation of the university's duty to uphold student rights and responsibilities, as well as to enhance campus security and student safety measures. So our webinar today focuses on providing accurate information about illegal drugs and how to prevent drug addiction. We hope to cultivate the values of reflection and discernment sa ating mga participants and encourage them and their respective student organizations to join the movement for a drug-free and safe campus. So now let me share with you the schedule of today's webinar. There will be two parts. The first part is the talk of our speaker, while the second part is the open forum. So to raise your questions or comments, please access na lang po yung ating Google Form link na isa-send sa ating Zoom chat. And we kindly refrain din po from indicating comments na hindi naman related sa topic. And we highly encourage you po to send your question while the presentation is being done. So I will be reading your questions and comments later sa ating open forum. Ngayon naman, here's an important reminder. So yung mga e-certificates po will be awarded to registered participants who will accomplish the evaluation form. So we will provide a link for the evaluation at the end of this webinar. Ayan, at this point po, may I now call on Dr. Maria Pamela Sorabinas, Education Supervisor 2 and Focal Person, Student Affairs and Services and Anti-Illegal Drugs Campaign, Commission and Higher Education Regional Office 5 to give the welcoming remarks.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Am I
ma'am.
clear? Yes, thank you. So today is a milestone for Ateneo de Naga University Office of Student Affairs and Ateneo Higher Education Health Services Office in cooperation with the Bicol Council of Deans Directors of Student Affairs and Services, the CHED-initiated organization for student affairs and services. Congratulations, Mr. Sunny Virtus, the officers of BCOD SAS, and of course, the power team of Ateneo de Naga University. I'm also delighted to see online Mr. Santaner Iray, sir, was also our speaker during the CHED SAS event in December last year. Good afternoon, Sir Santi. So, do you choose to be drug-free? I would assume that your answer is a resounding yes. Otherwise, you won't be here. For the past years, we have seen how drugs claimed lives. We saw on TV and even on our cell phones how painful drugs has affected lives, families, mothers, fathers, adults, teens, and even children. We were angry to see how many lives were lost. But are we really sure that they were innocent? Our government's campaign on anti-illegal drugs is strong. The Philippine Anti-Illegal Drug Strategy, or PADS, was the blueprint that prescribes how the government and all sectors should work together in cutting the supply of and demand for illegal drugs. In fact, Executive Under Order Number 66, Series of 2018, otherwise known as the Institutionalizing of the Philippine Anti-Illegal Drug Strategy, or PADS, directed all government offices, departments, bureaus, agencies, and offices, including government-owned or controlled corporations, and state universities and colleges, to implement the said anti-illegal drug strategy through its projects and programs in accordance with their respective mandates, and encourages private and civil society organizations to actively support the same. Even with the change of the administration, the campaign on anti-illegal drugs has not stopped. In fact, this June, CHED with the higher education institutions all over the Philippines has scheduled a workshop on the development of drug-free learning institutions. The activity aims to develop a roadmap for drug education and prevention programs in higher education that conveys the CHED and PAD's strategic direction for the next 5 years. The roadmap intends to guide, stimulate innovation, motivate HEI key personnel to be more active in the implementation in its policy direction, development strategies, initiatives, and interventions, creating a more relevant and responsive drug education and prevention programs for students of higher education institutions. As you know, CHED's priority is safety, a drug-free schools for all of us. CHED Region 5 promotes and will continue to participate in the primary prevention programs for the demand reduction drive by strengthening the implementation of course, the NSTP, support the primary prevention efforts through the development and publication of information and educational materials on dangerous drugs and distribution of these to students, faculty, parents, and the community, and capacitate school administrators and personnel on preventive drug education and utilization of support instructional materials. We are partners in the campaign against drugs. CHED Memorandum Order Number 18, Series of 2018, also known as the Implementing Guides or Guidelines for the Conduct of Drug Testing of Students in all higher education institutions, is a guide of all the HIs on this campaign. Together, let us promote the well-being of you, the youth, the general population through establishing a safe campus and healthy lifestyle. Let us envision a safe and healthy campus and drug-free community. God bless us all on this significant endeavor. Good afternoon to all.
Ayan, thank you so much for that very inspiring message, Dr. Vinyas. So, Dr. Pampo is also the advisor of the DICOL Council of Deans and Directors of Student Affairs and Services. So, we are very happy to have you here with us po, ma'am. Thank you po. Ngayon naman, at this juncture, alam ko naman, super excited na kayo to meet kung sino nga ba ang ating resource speaker. Kaya, without further ado, it is with great pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished guest for this afternoon. So, our speaker works as the chief trainer of Drug Check Philippines for 18 years, handling the training and development programs of the company. He mastered the advocacy on drug-free workplace by offering a comprehensive drug abuse prevention programs to its clients, both in the public and private sectors. He strengthened his platform by partnering with Philippine Council of NGOs against drugs and substance abuse, where he served as a spokesperson for plans and programs for more than a decade. Advancing its flagship program, Family Life Skills or Pagsasanay ng Pamilyang Pilipino, he specifically handles the life skills training for the youth and was part of the team that initiated for the revision of Life Skills Manual in Jakarta, Indonesia, and Penang, Malaysia in 2012. The concept of workplace-based prevention intervention solidifies the foundation of his drug-free workplace advocacy, as he was a member of the pioneer team of the National Trainers for the Republic of the Philippines of the Universal Prevention Curriculum by Colombo Plan, funded by the International Narcotics and Laws, U.S. Department of State. His passion for drug prevention has made him a public figure and was an in-demand speaker with his animated style in schools, colleges, and universities that paved the way to his guesting to several news and current affairs shows on free and cable TV, radio, podcast, and has also become a product endorser of an ointment brand and was given the highest satisfaction rating as a subject matter expert of the Office of the Solicitor General in 2021 and was commended by the Office of the Vice President in 2022 for being an active volunteer of Bayanihan e-Consulta during the COVID-19 pandemic. Sealing his accomplishment was being recognized as a standing alumnus of Aklan State University and Congressman Allen S. Kimpo Memorial Awardee in 2018 and Natatanging Gawad Falimon Awardee in 2023. He was also internationally and globally recognized as he became a pioneer member of the Pool of Global Master Trainers for International Society of Substance Use Prevention and Treatment Professionals of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime at Vienna, Austria, and alumnus of the International Visitors Leadership Program in the United States of America, the most prestigious exchange programs in the world. Now, he is an executive director and PRO of Community Chess Foundation and a certified neurolinguistic programming and life coaching practitioner through Auspicium, United Kingdom. He has been all over the country being invited to talk on his mental health, gender equality, and HIV awareness advocacies as well. So this 2023, he is Asia's most distinguished trainer awardee under learning development category by Asia Awards, the Asia's #1 brand and leadership excellence awards powered by World Research Congress in partnership with United Research Council and media partner Times of London. He was also awarded this 2023 as one of the Nation Builders of Asia as Asia's Exemplary Leadership and Advocate Awardee through Vietnam's International Achievers Awards. So everyone, with pride and gratitude, let us all welcome Mr. Santaner T. Iray. Hello, sir. Good afternoon po.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong
Magandang
lahat.
hapon,
And
sir.
thank you very much for inviting me and for having me here to give justice po to the topic about drug prevention. So sana po, pag alis natin, meron tayong take home, ma-inspire tayo, ma-motivate tayo na hindi makakatulong yung droga sa buhay natin. Alright? Ay kasi wala naman talagang nagsabi sa history ng buong mundo nang dahil gumamit ng droga, gumanda ang buhay. So bakit pa tayo gagamit? Our mantra for this afternoon sa ating mga tagapakinig and sa mga nakatutok ngayon sa YouTube channel, kung wala ang droga sa buhay mo, ang kinabukasan mo ay sigurado. Allow me to share my presentation po. Thank you very much. Sa panahon daw ngayon, tanghali na lang daw ang tapat. Ihi na lang daw ang nagpapakilig. Bilihin na lang daw ang nagmamahal. Condom na lang daw ang may trust. And you can only find your one true love. Pero ang saklap, sa San Marino tuna pa. Pero para sa akin, marami pa rin ang tapat. Marami pa rin ang pwedeng kiligin at nagpapakilig ng tunay. Pero meron pa ring mga pagkakataon na tayo ay nagkakaroon ng broken-heartedness. Pero okay lang yan. Kasi ito ang nagpapaalala sa atin kung bakit hindi ka para sa iba at kung bakit para ka lang talaga sa kanya. Welcome to this talk at sana marami tayong mai-take home pag uwi natin or pagkatapos ng lecture na to. I am fascinated with fairy tale and I would want to start my presentation with a fairy tale. Of course, everybody can relate to the story of Snow White. But my question is, why do you think Snow White was given a poison apple? And that is a very good question because the subject or the object kung bakit binigyan si Snow White ng nakakalaso na mansanas, we have to process that this afternoon. So why do you think Snow White was given a poison apple? To remind all of us na hindi lahat na nakangiti pagharap mo ay nakangiti rin pagtalikod mo. In fact, hindi lahat na nag-hi sa'yo at nangangamusta ay gustong kamustahin ang buhay mo. Yung iba, gustong manghiram ng pera mo. At hindi lahat ng yumayakap sa'yo pagharap ay walang bitbit na kutsilyo pagtalikod. Ang ibig sabihin lang nito ay piliin natin yung mga tao na pinapapasok natin sa buhay natin. You have to choose people who choose you. Piliin mo yung mga taong nandyan sa'yo, hindi lang dahil merong nakukuha sa'yo, pero nandyan pa rin sa'yo kahit walang-wala ka na. I am talking about peer influence and peer preference. In the international standard of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, hindi natin ginagamit yung peer pressure. Ask me why. Kasi walang taong tinutukan ng baril na kapag hindi magda-drugs at the end of the day, papatayan siya. Using drugs is a product of your own choice. And the reason why we have this kind of platform, we have this kind of information and awareness campaign is because you need to educate your choices. Kasi lamang ang may alam. At kapag lamang ka, huwag ka lang manlalamang. Ang ibig sabihin nito is you get to share whatever it is that you have learned from this session para mas madami pa pong magkaroon ng tatak na kaalaman or magkaroon ng kaalaman. Alright? So yun po yung reason kung bakit Snow White was given a poison apple to remind all of us that not all people you will meet or you will allow to enter your lives are real. The second story is that of Cinderella. Why do you think Cinderella has to run away from the castle when the clock strikes at 12? Bakit sa tingin niyo si Cinderella kailangang umalis sa palasyo kapag nag-aalas 12 na? If you are going to ask the reason why, is to remind all of us that everything has limitations. Even our dreams have limitations. Kaya, pakitingnan yung katabi mo kung may katabi ka kung mukhang nakaka-stress. Pakisabi sa katabi mo, stress pa more. Kasi ang buhay na walang stress, boring yan. At ang boring na buhay, nakaka-stress din. Kaya sabihin mo sa katabi mo, salamat sa nakaka-stress mong pagmumukha. And why is this so? Because it's also our choice. Kung yung stressor na yon can bring out the beast and the best in all of us. But sometimes, kailangan natin yung healthy stress to be able to encourage ourselves that we can do so much na kaya-kaya pa natin gawin. Yung mga bagay na iniisip natin na hindi natin kayang gawin. And I think that is the reason why Cinderella has to run away from the castle when the clock strikes at 12 to remind all of us that everything has limitations. Kahit yung tagline ng video is we find ways, hindi pa rin niya kayang masolusyonan na hanggang 50,000 lang ang withdrawal in a day. Kahit yung exam ng mga anak ninyo or mga kapatid ninyo has time limits as well. Yung ating flash drive, it has a certain limitations po kung ilan lang ang pwedeng MBs na pwedeng isave dyan sa flash drive na yan. And of course, sa cellphone ninyo, it has limitations kung ilan lang yung upload na pwedeng isave sa mobile phone ninyo. So it is reminding all of us that everything has limitations. Even our dreams have limitations. And if you are listening to me right now, and if you are not okay, I am telling you, it is okay not to be okay. Hindi habang buhay masaya tayo. Pero kapag masaya ka, i-enjoy mo yan kasi hindi yan magtatagal. Kapag malungkot ka, okay lang yan, mag-chill ka kasi hindi yan magtatagal din. Nothing is permanent in this world. Even your burdens, even your problems, hindi rin yan magtatagal. And the reason why I am citing these things ay dahil sa survey ng Dangerous Drugs Board in 2019 kung bakit marami ang tumikim ng droga is dahil may problema daw sila. Ang maitanong lang natin kung sinong tao yung walang problema. Then again, our premise is you cannot choose your problem, but you can still choose to smile and move forward even at the midst of your problem. Kaya nating ngumiti na walang droga. Marami ang gumagamit ng droga kasi gustong makawala sa problema nila. But believe me, one problem cannot be solved by making another problem. And if your solution to your problem is the use of drugs, you're not subtracting the problem, but you are adding another problem. Hindi masusolusyonan ang problema mo ng isa pang problema, bagkus madadagdagan pa ng isang problema. Let's move on to another fairy tale story of Ariel the mermaid. Why do you think Ariel the mermaid has to give up her tails to marry a man? To remind all of us na ang tunay at wagas na pag-ibig kayang magsakripisyo. And this is also a campaign for all of us that we have to break the social stigma attached for those people who are having trouble when it comes to substance use. People with substance use disorder, people who use drugs or piwoods have made wrong decisions in the past. At hindi ka pwedeng bumalik para baguhin yung pagkakamali mo, pero kaya pang magkaroon ng magandang ending ang kwento ng buhay mo. Pero yung kampanya natin, hindi lang nakakoncentrate sa awareness, but it also concentrates on how to break stigma and discrimination. Lahat tayo, kapag nabigyan ng pagkakataong magbagong buhay, pwede namang tuloy-tuloy na magbagong buhay. There is still life even after a broken heart. Pero yung kampanya natin sa mga tagapakinig natin yan, especially for the young generation, our mantra is wag tumikim. Kasi marami ang tumikim, they thought they can control the use of drugs, but they are all wrong. Kasi habang tumatagal, tumitindi ang pangangailangan mo. Habang tumatagal, mas tumitindi ang paggamit ng droga. It all starts from being curious or being an experimenter. And then it has leveled up to being an occasional user, to being a regular user, and the last stage is addiction. Tandaan, walang naging addict sa unang tikim, pero marami ang naging addict dahil sila ay tumikim. Kaya yung kampanya natin ay nakakonsentrate sa no to sad. Ano yung no to sad? S stands for smoking, A stands for alcohol, and D stands for drugs. So bawal ang sad. Dapat happy. So we can still celebrate life even without drugs. Kasi kapag ikaw ay nakangiti, parang nakadroga ka na rin. Ang droga may bayad, ang pagngiti wala. Piliin natin yung the best for us. Doon na tayo sa pagngiti. Ang English ng ngiti ay smile, and the spelling of smile is S-M-I-L-E, and the meaning of smile is see miracles in life every day. So no matter what you've been through, whether you are at the darkest moment of your life, see the silver lining of it, because you have to see miracles in life every day. Bakit ka pa magdodroga kung sa mga ngiti ng mga taong nakapaligid sa'yo, high na high ka na? Bakit ka pa magdodroga kung sa bawat dinig mo sa sermon ng nanay mo, parang high na high ka na? Again, ang droga may bayad, ang pagngiti wala. Piliin natin ang pagngiti. Kahit medyo masakit sa loob, piliin pa rin nating ngumiti. Ika nga sa kanta, smile, though your heart is aching. Kayo na lang po yung kumanta. Kasi speaker po ako, hindi singer. Ipagpatuloy po natin yung ating fairy tale stories. Why do you think Sleeping Beauty has to wait for 1,000 years for that one real kiss? To remind all of us na ang tunay at wagas na pag-ibig kayang maghintay. At para sa mga kabataan natin ngayon, although the society is telling everyone na dapat we are in a relationship, I'm not saying that it is not good to be in a relationship, but use that as an inspiration. Pero wag magmadali. Kapag single ka, it's okay. Unahin mo yung sarili mo. Kasi pag okay ka na, ang love life ang maghahabol sa'yo. Hindi ikaw ang maghahabol sa love life. Kasi hindi ka pang option. Pang best choice ka. Lagi mong tatandaan na hindi ka pang tira-tira. You deserve the best the universe can ever give you. Kaya kapag single ka ngayon, kapag nag-aaral ka pa, use that as an inspiration and the power for self-love and self-care. Kasi pag okay ka na, love will chase after you, not you chasing after your love life. Kasi hindi ka pang option. Again, pang best choice ka. Let's move on to other fairy tale stories. Why do you think Belle fell in love with an ugly beast? To remind all of us na ang tunay at wagas na pag-ibig ay hindi nasusukat sa panlabas na kaanyuan. For the younger generations of today, when the world and the social media is telling you na dapat super sexy para mahalin, what happens if yung minahal mo hindi na sexy? Mawawala na ba yung pagmamahal? Na dapat mayaman ang mamahalin? What happens if the person you have loved lose his wealth? Hindi mo na ba siya mamahalin? Diba? What happens kapag gusto mong mahalin ay maganda? What if that beauty fades? Hindi mo na ba minamahal yon? In the standard of the world and the humanity right now, na kailangan pointed nose. What if ang taong dumating sa buhay mo ay disappointed ang nose? Ang storya ni Belle, who fell in love with an ugly beast, is reminding all of us na hindi dapat natin gamitin yung ating social media as our point of happiness, because genuinely dapat yung happiness nanggagaling sa kaibuturan ng ating mga puso. And the last fairy tale story that I want you to remember is the story of Aladdin. And the question is, why do you think Jasmine fell in love with a thief? To remind all of us na ang tunay at wagas na pag-ibig, no matter who and what you are, it will definitely go straight to your heart. And those things are making all of us and being reminded of bakit kailangan nating i-mention ito. Kasi product yun lahat ng mga choices natin. And the reason why nandito tayong lahat ngayong hapon na ito is because we need to educate our choices to make the right decision. Importante na bago tayo magdesisyon sa lahat ng mga bagay na gagawin natin, kailangan pag-isipan natin ito if this will actually do us more good than harm or more harm than good. And ulit-ulitin natin, wala pang nagsabi ng dahil gumamit ng droga, gumanda ang buhay. So bakit ka pa gagamit? Yung mantra natin this afternoon, kung wala ang droga sa buhay mo, ang kinabukasan mo ay sigurado. Tandaan, huwag kang tumaya sa siguro. Dapat sa sigurado. So walang droga. No to sad? Yes to happy life. Balikan natin yung mga fairy tales. Sino yung gumawa nito mga fairy tales na to? Of course, alam natin na si Walt Disney. And the question is, why do you think Walt Disney does not stop from producing movies to remind all of us that there is such a thing as they live happily ever after? Kasi hindi pa yan ending pag hindi happy. Lahat ng ending happy. Kung hindi pa yan happy, may part 2 yan, may part 3, kapit lang. Merong magandang mangyayari sa'yo this 2023. So sa lahat na nakikinig sa atin, no matter what you've been going through about your life, merong maganda pa rin mangyayari sa buhay mo. Congratulations. That was just an introduction to our topic. Let's start po our discussion. So allow me to start with this, since we are talking about inspiration, and this is my inspiration in 2022, nung nag-audition sa America's Got Talent. Her name is Birdie. Nightbird. Alright? Yun yung tawag sa kanya. At bakit I was caught, my attention was caught of this beautiful woman who auditioned sa America's Got Talent. Kasi meron siyang cancer. Ang yung panuntunan niya is meron daw sabi ng doctor na 2% to survive. And then sinabi niya during the interview na 2% is awesome. Kasi hindi pa daw yan 0%. Imagine, di ba? Kung etong tao na ito naniniwala na yung 2% is awesome kasi it's better than 0%. Tayo ba na may pinagdadaanan pa yung may karapatang mag-complain? Unfortunately, Nightbird passed away also in 2022. Pero yung kanyang sinabi that resonated with me is you can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy. And that resonated with our campaign today na dapat bawal ang sad, dapat happy. And with this Nightbird stories, di ba, na sinabi ko sa atin ngayon, na naniniwala siya na yung 2% is better than 0. Yung chance niyang mabuhay ay 2% lang, sabi ng doctor niya, pero nakakita niya yan as a silver lining na mas maganda pa rin ang 2% sa 0. Imagine kung gaano kaganda yung pag-asa na binibigay sa bawat isa na kahit may pinagdadaanan ka, anuman ang pinagdadaanan mo, kakayanin mo kasi hindi ka nag-iisa. And that, I think, is what we need, especially these days, na sobrang ingay ng mundo at lahat gustong magsalita. And we are reminded that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And why do you think we have 2 ears and 1 mouth? Because we need to listen more and speak less. When you're going to get your 1 ear, it forms this kind of a shape. I hope you can see me. And if you are going to include your other ear, it forms a heart shape. When you combine your 2 ears together, it forms a heart shape. And what does it mean? In listening, there is love. Sa pakikinig, may pag-ibig. And this is actually a call for parents who are listening today, for teachers po of the different schools na uma-attend at naka-live stream sa atin sa YouTube ngayon or kahit nandito sa Zoom na ito, na yung pinakamaganda na pwede nating gawin para tayo ay makatulong sa problema ng droga sa bansa at sa mundo ay makinig sa bawat isa. Because when you listen to one another, you are giving something that you cannot get back. And time is very important to each of us. And when you listen to one person, you're giving your time. And that is something na hindi mo na maibabalik pa pag pinigay mo yung oras mo sa iba. But that is also something that resonates with kind of person you are by giving the love to that person who need that very badly that very day. So importanteng maiparamdam natin yung pagmamahal sa ating mga anak, sa ating mga estudyante sa pamamagitan ng pakikinig sa kanila. It is not enough that you send your children to school. It is not enough that you provide food on the table. You need communication, especially these days na sobrang dami nating kalaban because of the gadgets and social media.
Bakit hindi gumagana?
Hello po? Sorry po. Ayan, parang may nagsalita. Ayan, okay. So, eto yung reminder sa atin ni Nightbird na dapat mapuno tayo ng pag-asa, and that hope actually symbolizes the love that we give for each other. Alright? So, allow me to share. At gusto ko lang pong sabihin sa inyo na pwede po kayong sumagot para maging interactive yung ating learning session ngayon. Pwede kayong sumagot sa chat box. Because our next po, the level of our discussion will focus into pick to word. So meron po akong ipoprovide ng mga pictures po, and meron pong word tayong hinahanap that is associated po sa topic natin about drug prevention and our campaign this afternoon. And the first one po has something to do with this. So yung picture po ito ng ref and then ng fuse. So ano po ang hinahanap natin? Can you please type that on the chat box? Wag po ba refuse po? Congratulations, Sir Celestino Jose Perez. Yes, correct. Thank you very much po for being so participative kasi we want this to be interactive. So the word that we are actually looking for is refuse, and this is very important, especially for the young people, empowering their life skills, refusal skills to be specific. Kaya di ba yung kampanya natin is not just to create awareness, but empower one person to say no. And our approach is parang barkada kontra droga. It's a peer-to-peer approach. Mas maganda na hinihila natin yung ating kapwa kabataan para dun sa mga positive reinforcements of our lives. Pag sila ay nakikitaan ng walang pag-asa, we are there to lift them higher. Nakakatulong po ito para mag-build po ng life skills, which is very important po, to say no to drugs and to focus on something brighter, to focus on the future. Kasi lagi nating sasabihin na wala pang nagsabi ng dahil gumamit ng drugs, gumanda ang buhay. So our concentration po is not in the use of drugs, di ba? Pero doon sa future. Kaya importante na yung bawat isa, especially the young people who are listening to us right now, the students po, are empowered to say no. And the word that we are actually looking po is the power to refuse. It's the skill to refuse. And kailangan natin ito. Paano tayo makakapag-refuse? Through life skills. Kasama na po dyan yung empowering your self-esteem, yung paniniwala sa sarili. Kaya kapag may nagsabi sa'yo, iniwanan ka kasi sinabi sa'yo that you are not enough, balikan mo yung tao na yon at sabihin mo sa kanya na realize ko, tama ka, I am not enough for you, kaya iniwan mo ako because I am more than enough for you, kaya iiwanan kita. Sabi ni Eleanor Roosevelt, nobody can hurt you without your permission. Pag may nagsabi sa'yo that you are ugly or pangit ka, sagutin mo, balikan mo, sabihin mo, I am beautiful no matter what they say. Words can't bring me down today. At alam ko, kinanta nyo yan, ipagpatuloy po ninyo yan. Yan yung maging mantra natin para maging higher yung self-esteem. Pag empowered ka, walang makakapanakit sa'yo. You won't allow other people to hurt you. Kasi sabi ni Eleanor Roosevelt, nobody can hurt you without your permission. Even though yung mga mag-o-offer sa'yo to try drugs, you are empowered, you have made the decision na importante yung future mo sa'yo. Wala pang gumamit ng droga na gumanda ang buhay. Sabi ni Sir Santi, you can easily refuse. Kasi alam mo na ito ay hindi makakapagdulot ng maganda sa buhay mo. Ayan. Kundi magiging harmful pa ito sa buhay mo. So the first word that we are looking for this afternoon session po is refuse. So no to sad, no to smoking, alcohol, and drugs, but yes to happy life. So thank you very much everyone for your participation. So let's move on to another word. Anong hinahanap natin? So meron tayong soup and fly. So anong hinahanap natin? Can you please type that at the chat box? Supply, very good po. Wow, ang dami nating mga magagaling this afternoon, and it's really getting hot in here kasi medyo mainit po, pero medyo mainit na yung talakayan natin. Yes, correct po kayo. Ang hinahanap po natin ay supply. So, na-mention kanina yung drug supply reduction. Correct si Dr. Pam kanina from CHED na binention niya na yung direction po ng atin pong kampanya, diba? During the time of President Pinoy, during the time of President Duterte, at ngayon sa time po ni President Marcos Jr. po, is really the drug supply reduction. When you say drug supply reduction, ito po yung ginagawa ng ating NBI, ng ating PNP, ng ating pong PIDEA. Inilalayo po nila ang supply sa tao. Ginalayo po ang droga sa tao. Yung ginagawa naman natin ngayon is drug demand reduction. Inilalayo natin yung tao sa droga by empowering empowering them, by educating them, creating awareness, and allowing the person who is aware, to also make other people aware. So ibig sabihin, nagiging domino effect tayo. But etong hinahanap natin ngayon is the word supply, drug supply reduction. Dito natin makikita yung ating mga otoridad like PDEA, the PNP, the NBI, diba, they're doing their best para at least yung mga bypass operations na ginagawa nila, yung mga drug traffickers who control drugs throughout the world like Chinese Triad, West African Drug Syndicate, Sinaloan, Colombian and Mexican cartel ay masawata at hindi makapasok sa teritoryo ng ating bansa. Sa impapawid man yan, sa katubigan man natin, kung mail and parcel services man yung mode ng transmission or pag-transship dito sa ating bansa ay hindi sila makapasok. And dito nakakoncentrate yung drug supply reduction. Very good po ang lahat. Next po, ano po yung hinahanap natin? We have M&M and we have Meralco. Can you please answer that on the chat box? Medyo pinag-iisan. Empower. Thank you very much, Sir Tino from UST Legazpi. Kayo po ang nauna. Correct. Paulit-ulit yung sinasabi kanina yung word na ito. Ang inulit pa rin natin ngayon. Ang hinahanap po natin, since meron tayong M&M and Meralco, is empower. So we need to empower one another para po ma-boost yung ating life skills, para we can say no, we can refuse, especially for the young people of today, sa mga students po na nandito sa atin ngayon at nakikinig, alright? Or napapanood din tayo sa YouTube channel, di ba? Importanteng i-empower natin yung ating mga sarili, di ba? Para kapag meron nag-alok sa atin na gumamit ng droga, alam na agad natin yung ating sasabihin sa kanila. So we have to empower one another para at least yung life skills natin ay ma-empower din. And then at the same time, yung refusal skills natin ay ma-boost para at least hindi tayo tumikim. Kasi ulitin natin, marami ang tumikim, ang akala nila, kaya nilang kontrolin. Yes, yung iba na control, pero yung iba po nag-lead into addiction. At eto po yung ating pinoprotektahan. Kasi di ba meron tayong progression of drug use from experimental states, then naging curious, then nagkaroon ng occasional use, then naging regular user, and then it led to addiction. And lagi nating tatandaan, kapag nandun na sa addiction, it is a chronic relapsing disease. Alright? It is a disorder. At pag sinabi po nating addiction po, drug addiction is considered to be a brain disease. We're going to discuss po more of that later as we move on to our discussion. Ayan. So, tama po yung hinahanap natin. Ang hinahanap po natin ay empower. Alright. And, ito po yung pinaka-last natin na hinahanap ngayon. Meron po tayong meron po tayong doc, and kung ano man po ito. So, ano sa tingin nyo ang hinahanap natin? Reduction. Ayan. So, dalawa po ang ating hinahanap. Yung supply reduction and demand reduction. Yun po yung concentration ng ating pads. Sa supply reduction po, na-discuss ko na kanina, ito yung ginagawa ng ating mga otoridad. Sa demand reduction po, ito yung ginagawa natin ngayon. We educate people, we empower people, we make them aware about the hazard and the effects of drugs. So ang hinahanap po natin ay reduction. Dati po ang kampanya ng ating gobyerno is Drug-Free Philippines. Medyo it's really very impossible these days. Kaya ang nagiging kampanya na po natin ay Drug-Resistant Philippines. Kapag may droga, we resist, we say no. Ito na po yung pinakamagandang maibibigay natin na contribution po para sa ating bansa. In 2019, base sa survey ng Dangerous Drugs Board, there are 1.67 million current users and 4 million plus drug lifetime users. Ayan, 2019 survey of the Dangerous Drugs Board po yan. And marami sa akin nagtatanong, Sir, yung campaign nyo po, yung expertise nyo is into drug prevention. Bakit po, despite your efforts, bakit despite the efforts of mga advocates ng mga nasa into drug prevention expertise, meron pa rin or madami pa rin ang gumagamit ng drugs? And I would answer, siguro pag hindi natin ginagawa yung prevention, mas madami pa sa 1.67 million, mas madami pa sa 4 million. Kaya po, prevention is the most cost-effective way of fighting drug problem in the world because you are doing something before the problem explodes. Meaning, ginagawa na agad natin yung intervention bago pa magkaroon ng malaking problema. Yan po ang prevention, and prevention is evidence-based. It is backed up with science and researchers that it is really very effective. and cost-effective at the same time. So Sir Santi, pagkatapos ng ating mga words na hinanap na yon, ano ba talaga yung substance abuse? How do you define it? Paano natin malalaman na ikaw ay umaabuso na ng substance? Especially now na meron tayong mga NPS or new psychoactive substances or NPS ang tawag. So allow me to define kung anong ibig sabihin ng substance use, all right? Or substance abuse. It is the use of any chemical substance, pwedeng legal, pwedeng illegal, which results to individual impairment, all right? Physically, mentally, emotionally, and even the social well-being of the person. Again, ang tawag sa substance abuse ay paggamit ng substance, legal man o illegal, na nakakaresulta ng kasamaan. Nabi nating Valium, it is a kind of tranquilizer, and you're taking that one even without the prescription. That becomes substance abuse kasi ginagamit mo, although it is a regulated kind of drug, kailangan po yung doctor makakuha ng S2 license, S2 license sa PDEA para magkaroon siya ng yellow prescription para magamit ng pasyente na meron talagang legitimate use para dito. Alright? Kaya yung mga naresetahan nito, ibig sabihin na process na ng doctor, the doctor has been given the S2 license at pwede siyang mag-issue ng yellow prescription para dito sa pasyente na to. Now, it becomes substance abuse kapag ikaw ay gumamit nito without medical supervision from those in the authority or those experts, professional medical experts. Alright? Morphine is also a regulated kind of drug. Pwedeng mabili yan kapag meron kang yellow prescription. It is regulated. Kailangan yung nag-issue sa'yo ay may S2 license na hindi ka dapat sumusobra doon sa dosage na binigay sa'yo. Pag sumobra ka at kapag walang medical supervision, it is called substance abuse. Sa panahon ngayon, kapag bumibili ng mga antibiotics po na hindi naman nakareseta, hindi ka dapat makakabili ito in the very first place. Ininom mo ito, di ba, without the medical supervision na walang reseta, it becomes substance abuse. Inaabuso mo ito that will result to detrimental effects sa iyong kalusugan. At yung last po is the use or consumption without medical authorization of medically useful drugs which alter mood. So yung underlying principle nito ay nakakasira ng iyong katawan. Physically, mentally, emotionally, at makakaapekto sa iyong social well-being. Impairment po, detrimental effect, and will alter mood and behavior. Yung common denominator ng definition ng substance abuse. Ulitin natin di ba dito sa definition, meron ditong impairment, di ba, doon sa una. Meron ditong detrimental effect dun sa pangalawa and would alter your mood and behavior. Ibig sabihin, nakakasama sa iyong kalusugan. Kaya siya tinawag na substance abuse. Sir Santi, ano naman ang drug dependence? Ang drug dependence naman ay paulit-ulit na paggamit nito, alright, na ikaw ay naging dependent na para maramdaman mo na ikaw ay okay. May mga tao po na gumagamit ng droga na yon para maramdaman nila na sila ay okay. May mga tao po na hindi makatulog sa gabi kaya sila umiinom ng alak, which is wrong. Hindi makatulog sa gabi pero ang solusyon ay pag-inom ng alak. So paulit-ulit silang umiinom ng alak, yan ang solusyon nila. That's drug dependence. May mga taong gumagamit ng shabu kasi feeling nila kapag hindi sila nakashabu, nilalagnat sila, may sakit sila. That is actually drug dependence. And ipasok na natin dito yung definition ng addiction. Sir, ano naman yung addiction? Kanina pa ulit-ulit nating minimension na yung mga phasing na ito, ano yung mga progression ng pag-level up po ng addiction. Siyempre, nag-start siya sa curiosity or experimental stage hanggang nag-level up po siya sa occasional use, nag-level up siya sa regular use, at hanggang napunta na siya sa addiction. Okay? At yung addiction na yan is a continuous relapsing disease. It is a disorder. And once the brain cells are damaged, the effect is irreversible. The effect is permanent. And the purpose of the treatment and rehabilitation is not really to cure the brains, but just to prevent further damage. So may na-mention akong dalawa, curable and treatable. Cancer is curable, correct? Pero yung HIV po is treatable, but it's not curable. Kapag yung HIV po ay nasa sayo, that will actually become part of your life for the rest of your life. Pero hindi ka naman mamamatay because of the antiretroviral medicine. And ganun din po kapag naapektuhan na yung brain cells kasi hindi siya nagre-regenerate ng bagong tissue, meaning the effect, diba, of drugs to your brain is permanent. It is irreversible. And ito talaga yung kampanya natin, huwag tumikim kasi paulit-ulit nating sinasabi, akala ng iba makatikim, kayang kontrolin, pero madami po ang napunta at nagpatuloy doon sa addiction. Kaya po ang kampanya natin, huwag tumikim at kapag nakatikim na sa isang beses, itigil na yan sa pangalawang beses because the prevention that we are actually campaigning is to delay the initiation of use, huwag talagang gumamit, and kapag nakagamit na, itigil na yung pangalawang paggamit. Kasi pag pangatlo, pang-apat, pag-lima, pang-anim, tuloy-tuloy na po yan. That would lead actually to the hard part of the cycle or the progression, which is the addiction. Now, tingnan natin, Sir Santi, kapag doon na sa addiction stage, meron na yang compulsive behavior. May nangyayari na doon sa tao. Alright? Meron na yung mga adverse consequences. Ano yung mga adverse consequences na ito? Matatandaan po natin may 4 po na bata. I'm sorry for this. It's a morbid situation. Pero alam naman po natin yan, that was a month ago, na may 4 na bata po na pinatay ng kanilang stepfather na yung nanay po nila ay nasa ibang bansa. And Sir Santi, yung akin ditong narrative talaga, yung tao na ito, yung tatay na ito wouldn't really do that one. Hindi niya kayang gawin yun if he is not under the influence of drugs. I'm sorry, pero parental guidance po. Pagkatapos niyang patayin yung 4 na bata, ay pinatay niya rin yung kanyang sarili. And atin pong ipaliwanag yung epekto na ito doon sa brain kapag nakadroga na at pumasok na po doon sa pinaka-adverse part, which is already in the addiction stage. Yung epekto sa frontal lobe po, frontal lobe ng brain ay pagbabago pa lang ng ugali. Kaya yung dating masayahing tao, naging irritable, umiksi ang pasensya, and the worst, naging bayolente. Yan yung epekto ng substance ng droga na tinake ng tao sa frontal lobe ng brain. Kapag sa bahay ninyo, nawawala na yung mga Betamax, VHS player, DVD player, nako, baka nabenta na po yan. Okay? So ginawa ko lang po yung patawa kasi wala naman po mga DVD, Betamax or VHS player po. So ibig sabihin, di maipaliwanag na pangungutang, pagbenta ng mga gamit, na baon sa utang, posibleng if it's not gambling addiction, yan, it can be drug addiction. At kapag may nakita na po ng mga compulsive behavior, nandun na po yan that would lead to addiction. So dito pa lang sa initial stage, sa frontal po, yung pagbabago ng ugali, ang pinaka-worst agad dyan na posibleng mangyari doon sa tao is pagiging bayolente. Yan, dito pa lang yan. Sa pagbabago ng ugali, dating masayahing tao, naging irritable, umiksi ang pasensya, and the worst, naging bayolente. Naging bayolente. Ibig sabihin po, grabe na yung mood shifts, yung mood swings na nangyayari dun sa tao. Pero habang tumatagal, tumitindi ang epekto nito, we're talking about adverse effects and the compulsive behavior. Dito sa temporal lobe, ang epekto niyan ay auditory hallucination. In fact, I knew one rehab patient, nagmamadali, kinukuha ang mga gamit niya sa bahay, yung dinig ng rehab patient may gera, pero yung totoo, nagpapatugtog lang ng malakas na radyo yung kapitbahay niya. That is what you call auditory hallucination. Sa tabloid, during the pandemic, napatay ng tatay niya yung anak niyang umiiyak, hindi iyak yung dinig ng tatay niya, atake ng halimaw. Now, pag pumasok ang droga dito sa temporal lobe at naapektuhan ito, ang epekto niyan ay auditory hallucination. Now, i-process natin yung 4 na bata na napatay, then nagpakamatay yung tatay after that. Dito yan pumasok na sa occipital lobe. Ano ang epekto nito sa occipital lobe? Alright. Dito sa occipital lobe, ang epekto niyan ay visual hallucination. According to Philippine National Police, maraming mga heinous crimes, in other words, karumal-dumal na krimen were committed because the person is under the influence of drugs. Imagine, tatay ni-rape sariling anak. Saan mo makikita yan if the person is not under the influence of drugs? Asawa, pinatay sariling asawa. Kabayo, baka kambing, ni-rape, tingin sa kabayo, sexy ladies. And during the pandemic, sino ang ni-rape? My goodness, kahit yung pusa ni-rape. Ano na lang yung reaction ng pusa habang ni-rape? Meow, meow, at marami pang meow. It goes to show ang paggamit ng droga, hindi lang siya sakit na physical. It is a psychological problem. I've mentioned earlier, once the brain cells are damaged, the effect is irreversible. And the purpose of rehabilitation and treatment is definitely not to cure your brains, but just to prevent further damage. Nagets po ito? Kaya ang kampanya po natin is huwag tumikim. Hindi ka naman nagkakape dati. Pero because of the aromatic sensation of coffee, trinay mo. Dati isang tasa ka lang, naging dalawa, naging tatlo, naging apat, hanggang sa naging addicted ka na. Because you'd rather drink coffee but not eat your breakfast, or you cannot eat your breakfast without coffee. Sa paninigarilyo, you wanted to be called social smoker, you wanted to be part of their group, pinatikim sa'yo, oh, hit-hit ka ng isang sigarilyo, and then you did try. And then dati isang stick lang, naging dalawa, naging tatlo, naging apat, naging lima, hanggang sa naging addicted ka na. And you wanted to stop but it's too late kasi nanginginig ang katawan, naglalaway, sumasakit ang ulo. O kailan nag-umpisa? Nang una kang tumikim. Kaya tama na naman yung kampanya natin, huwag kang tumikim. And it's the same with vape. Because you wanted vape to become a substitute to smoking cigarettes kasi nga wala siyang nicotine. But vape is made of oil and oil is also dangerous to your lungs. Kaya nga ang kampanya natin, di ba? Hindi lang ako nakakoncentrate sa illegal drugs, but I have included smoking and alcohol because though these are gateway drugs, but the person can actually use hardcore drugs once they have started. At this particular onset, mas mataas ang risk na tumikim ng marijuana yan kapag natuto na yung manigarilyo. Mas mataas ang risk na tumikim yan ng shabu kapag umiinom na yan ng alak. Kasi marami ang uminom ng alak at sinabay sa shabu para hindi sila malasing. Naninigarilyo habang nagmamarijuana para hindi sumakit yung ulo nila. Classic example, and this is really very sensational during the time of Giro Manio. Everybody knows about it. Di ba nakita natin si Giro Manio when he was doing a stellar performance sa Magnifico? Di ba ang galing na doon? But we are all surprised. Nung nakita natin siya, he was gallivanting, roaming around NAIA Terminal 3, waiting for his biological Japanese father. And before we knew it, we knew that Giro Manio was actually using drugs. Iray de las Alas was there for a rescue. Tinulungan siya na ma-rehab. And it was a successful rehab. In fact, after ng rehabilitation niya, napanood pa natin si Giro Manio in one of the concerts sa Kia Theater for the benefit ng mga in-rehab from Zambales. Pero we are all surprised. Tanong niyo kung bakit. Kasi di ba Iray de las Alas went to an interview at sinabi niya na ayaw na niyang tulungan si Giro Manio because Giro Manio went back to the use of drugs. Iray de las Alas forgotten the definition of addiction, which is a continuous relapsing disease. So it's not enough that you went to rehab. Kailangan po yung monitoring, the reintegration program, and aftercare. Kailangan ma-monitor kasi mayroon din namang mga trigger. And if the person was not able to relocate himself, nandun pa rin siya sa isang area kung saan nandun yung nagpo-provide ng droga. Kapag nagkaroon ng trigger at nandun yung access, posibleng magkaroon pa rin siya ng access at tumikim ulit ng droga. And that is why sinasabi natin ng paulit-ulit, drug addiction is considered to be a chronic relapsing disease. It is a disease. And that's the reason why our approach should become health issue. And this is a health issue. And we really have to help the person na kapag natapos na is maramdaman that he still is part of society, that we have to break the social stigma attached to it, that we have to eradicate the discrimination that is happening. And you know what? Ganun talaga. Ang daming marites sa mundo. Ang daming chismosa at chismosa sa mundo. And yan din ang naramdaman natin during the pandemic, di ba? During the pandemic, yung mga nag-positive, pinandirian. There's social stigma attached to it. There's discrimination attached to it. Diba? So in this society, in this particular campaign that we have, it's not just creating awareness, although our campaign is Say No, but this is also about having the kind of peace in our heart, diba, na ibigay din natin sa iba na may pinagdadaanan kasi di natin alam kung ano yung rason kung bakit sila ay gumamit ng droga. And I think if this society will be kinder enough of understanding what we are going through, then we can become a better society because we have created a safe space and environment for all of us. Ayan. And we can remember also na Whitney Houston is actually my favorite singer of all time. For me, Whitney Houston is the best vocals in the world. All right, fight me, pero she's really my favorite bias kasi Whitney Houston. Remember when she sang I Will Always Love You during the Bodyguard years? That was so effortless. Pero bakit? Anong nangyari kay Whitney Houston? Namatay siya. Bakit siya namatay? Because of accidental drowning, and it is because of the use of drugs. Accidental drowning, sir. Nalunod ba siya? Nalunod ba siya saan? Nalunod ba siya sa swimming pool? Hindi siya nalunod sa swimming pool. Alam niyo kung saan siya nalunod? Sa bathtub. Imagine, di ba? Meron bang nalulunod sa bathtub? Wala. It was an accidental drowning because because of drug use. Michael Jackson also has the same story, but it is actually overdosage. So, ibig sabihin, etong mga storya na ito, wala pang nagsabi ng dahil gumamit ng drugs, gumanda ang buhay. Kaya ang kampanya natin, nagre-resonate na naman. So, bakit ka pagagamit? Kung wala ang droga sa buhay mo, ang kinabukasan mo ay sigurado. Tandaan, huwag kang tumaya sa siguro, dapat sa sigurado. Hindi dapat tayo tumitigil sa ating message na ito. And that's the reason why every time I'm being invited po to talk and be given this kind of platform, I'm always excited kasi po importante na patuloy nating pinag-uusapan ito. The campaign of the present administration po, 'di ba? Amid my political bias, syempre, 'di ba po? Is really to do more on drug prevention and education. And I am for that. We need to educate, especially the young people of today. Yung mga bata po should actually know yung mga pesticides na ito, they can, as young as they are, kailangan alam na nila na ito na to, hindi dapat basta-basta ginagamit. Yung rugby na ito, ginagamit lang itong pangdikit sa sapatos because once you sniff this one, 'di ba, magkakaroon na ng apekto yan sa buhay mo, sa sarili mo. Mga ganung klase. We need to start an education as a very young age para alam na agad nila na ito ay hindi maganda sa buhay nila. Okay? Now, we have to move on to our discussion. Okay, let's start by discussing about history. Substance abuse has deep roots in the history of mankind. Alam nyo, yung si President Duterte po, nung sinabi niya na kaya niya pong solusyonan yung problema ng droga for 3 to 6 months. Ako po as an advocate for 18 years. Imagine 18 years. I started po as a youth spokesperson of the Philippine Council of Non-Government Organization Against Drug and Substance Abuse. Bata pa po ako noon. May buhok pa po ako. Ngayon wala na akong buhok. I'm still in this kind of advocacy. 'Di ba? Kaya ako po, nung sinabi ni President Duterte yun, baka mamaya kaya niya. Pero ako nakikita ko na baka mahirapan siya. Pero very supportive pa rin ako. Ayan. Pero kung titingnan mo, nung unang panahon pa, if you trace our history, substance abuse has deep roots in the history of mankind. In fact, yung marijuana po, earliest known and cultivated plant is older than maize of the Peruvian Incas. So it is safe today of what is existing ngayon na mga droga, yung marijuana po ang pinakamatandang droga sa buong mundo. At it remains to be illegal in the country today. And later on po, I am going to cite my view kasi may ibang mga proponents who wanted marijuana to become legal for medicinal purposes. And if you are going to ask me, baka mamaya itanong nyo, if I am in favor of legalizing marijuana, not for recreational of course, but for medicinal purposes later on po, bibigyan ko po yan ng linaw. And use of marijuana by Assyrians for ritual purposes in 9,000 years before Christ was really very evident. Kaya po, one of the major places in the Philippines wherein marijuana is evident is in Cordillera because our folks are using marijuana as part of the rituals kasi according to them, kapag nagmarijuana daw sila, it seems that they can reach heaven and they can talk to God. And true enough, kapag ikaw ay may tama dahil sa paggamit ng marijuana, it seems na nakasalangit ka and it seems na nakikipag-usap ka sa Diyos. Kaya nga importante talagang education para malaman nila this is not about it. But this is about the effect of marijuana to your health, di ba? And from there, it spread to the Near East, Central Asia, Africa, South America, Europe to North America. And I've mentioned po, di ba, doon sa aming kaninang dry run, na yung marijuana po is the number 1 na illegal drug na inaabuso base sa survey ng Dangerous Drugs Board for current users. Current po, kasi may lifetime users, dalawa po yun. Users na merong 1.67 million and yung lifetime users na merong 4 million plus. And yung pinaka-inaabusong droga para sa mga current users po ay marijuana. And timing na timing po, thank you for inviting me kasi po pabata ng pabata yung gumagamit ng marijuana as young as 9 years old and even 10 yung gumagamit ng marijuana. So kailangan talaga nating paigtingin ang kampanya pa rin, 'di ba, na etong marijuana na ito is illegal in our country. And at the same time, kailangan magkaroon tayo ng information and awareness para at least alam nila because mamaya ang sinasabi ko kanina, drugs right now are not being sold on the streets. It's being sold online through dark web. Kaya it's not enough for parents to just send their students to school or their children to school, provide food on the table, but they need proper communication. Kasi di ba yung social media is very powerful tool right now, maybe to deceive these children or to deceive these students, di ba? And importante ito kung sino yung mga pina-follow nila, anong page yung pinupuntahan nila, anong website. May dark web ito. Yes, the term is dark web. Underground po yan sa social media right now kung saan binibenta po yung marijuana. And this is the actual picture of how marijuana looks. From now on, if you've heard about Five Fingers, it's a street name. Pag sinabing street name, salitang kalye. The users and the traffickers are afraid to be caught. They are using street name or salitang kalye to hide that they are talking about marijuana, and one of them is Five Fingers. At saan ang galing yung Five Fingers? It was patterned after the 5 leaves of marijuana. I've mentioned earlier, meron pong mga gustong gawing legal ang marijuana for medicinal purposes. Sir Santi, bakit? Kasi kapag sumakit ang tiyan mo, naglaga ka ng marijuana, uminom ka nito, mawawala ang sakit. Pag di ka ginaganahan, mag-take ka ng marijuana, gaganahan ka na. For epileptic patient, it can be an aid. In the US, marijuana is being used po. In Australia, it is being used for cancer patients as a pain management painkiller. And a very appropriate question again is, are you in favor, Sir Santi, of legalizing medicinal purposes or the medical cannabis? And my answer is yes, because if it is a scientific breakthrough or a medicinal breakthrough, that it will help a lot of epileptic patients and even those cancer patients, di ba, para at least mabawasan yung sakit nila or makatulong sa kanila, then why not? Pero kagaya ng sagot ni Catriona Gray, di ba, noong 2018 when she was asked during the top 5 Miss Universe contest, diba? Ang tanong sa kanya, are you in favor of legalizing marijuana? At yung sagot din ni Catriona Gray is she is for the use, for medicinal use, but not so for recreational use. And I quote her, because what if, like alcohol and cigarettes, where everything is good but in moderation? And Catriona Gray made a history of becoming the 4th Filipina who won Miss Universe, and Thailand, which was the host country of Miss Universe 2018, made a history after 2 weeks. Bakit, Sir Santi? Di ba yung host noon 2018, and they made a history as the first country in Southeast Asia na nag-legalize ng marijuana for medicinal purposes. Yes, I am in favor of legalizing marijuana for medicinal purposes, but I think the Philippines is not yet ready to legalize marijuana. Hindi pa tayo prepared. Kailangan pa nating matingnan kung ito ay gagamitin talaga for medicinal purposes. Alam nyo ba na kapag nag-legalize ka ng marijuana, you're going to legalize yung mga farmers. And as we look at the situation of the farmers today, magkano ang palay? Magkano yung kilo niyan? Diba? At magkano yung kilo ng marijuana? Baka wala na tayong makitang magtatanim ng palay. Baka lahat sila nag-transfer na into farming po marijuana. Dahil mas mahal ang kilo ng marijuana kaysa sa pagtanim ng agricultural products. Nakuha niyo po ito, and sino ang mabibigyan ng S2 license, 'di ba, para mag-prescribe ng medical marijuana or medical cannabis? Yung ating bang batas, may safety nets ba ito para hindi maabuso? Alam natin ang mental gymnastics ng mga Pinoy. Of course, hindi naman, I'm not trying to be negative, but it's pretty obvious. 'Di ba, many years ago during the pre-pandemic time, guys, sa a signboard, bawal tumawid, nakamamatay. After a year, nagbago ang signboard, bawal tumawid, may namatay na dito. And after a year, nagbago ang signboard, bawal tumawid, may maraming namatay na dito. Look at the signboard, di ba, kung gaano yung mental gymnastics ng mga Pinoy, nakamamatay, may namatay na dito, maraming namatay na dito. Yung isa nag-violate kasi tumawid, may nakalagay, no jaywalking. Mag-reason out pa sa MMDA authority. Ang sasabihin pa, bakit mo ako huhulihin? Ng jaywalking, itumakbo ako. Diba? Try to imagine yung mental gymnastics ng mga Pinoy na baka mamaya magamit ang medical cannabis into recreational use. And eto talaga ang kailangan nating matutukan kung gusto talaga nating gawing gawing legal at gawing legal ang marijuana for medicinal use. For now, my answer is we are not prepared because this might actually bring more harm than good. This is from me as an advocate for many years. Alright? But moving on into our discussion, eto na po yung hybrid version ng marijuana. Hindi na uso ang 5 fingers, may 9 fingers na po yan. Dati kasing tangkad nating tao yung marijuana, this time it is a dwarf or bonsai in form. You can plant marijuana indoor, sa loob ng bahay, kahit sa paso. Ano sa English ng paso? Pot. And that is one of the street names of marijuana in the US. And that is where pot session originated. Yes po. Diyan po nag-originate ang pot session. Kasi we confuse ourselves na yung pot session ay nagsimula sa mga group of people na gumagamit ng shabu. Wrong. It actually started from those group of people who are using marijuana. Kasi nga, one of the street names of marijuana is pot. That is where pot session originated. Okay, that's an additional trivia. Okay, Sir Santi, ano naman tong next slide? Upper slide are dried leaves of marijuana and the lower slide are dried seeds of marijuana. Ang tawag po dito ay joints. Of course, we knew a presidential candidate. And alam nyo naman, yung joints po naging, so ano makikita po ninyo? Ano po ito? Can you please type in your chat box? Yung ganito? Alright. Can somebody answer it? May isang presidential na nagpauso nun. 2 joints, correct. 2 joints po, ang spelling ay Joints. Pero tama na rin po si Sir Celestino. Thank you, sir, for participating. Okay. So yung spelling niya is joints. Joints. 2 joints. Pero sinabi naman niya, and clear naman niya yon na hindi naman niya pinopromote ito. At yun lang daw talaga yung sign niya. Okay. Let's talk about nag-level up na itong marijuana. Ito po, tissue paper, nirolyo. Nilagay itong dried leaves and they smoke. And from now on, even for parents and for the students who are listening to us right now, if you've heard about RP, marijuana po yun. Ang ibig sabihin ng RP, not Republic of the Philippines. They roll the tissue paper. Therefore, RP means rolling paper. That is one of the street names. And we have to know this not because we want to try it, but because baka mamay nag-uusap yung mga kapitbahay na yun ng 2 joints, hindi natin alam. We need to educate and arm ourselves. Kasi tayo drug-free. Pero paglabas mo, yung mga naririnig mo nag-uusap about 2 joints that you don't know it's marijuana, how can you arm yourself? You can only save yourself once you know. Empowering yourself is educating yourself. So dapat alam natin. Okay? And hindi na po uso ang tissue paper. Sa panahon ngayon, they're using papel ng Biblia. Kasi kapag tissue paper daw, may sayang, may tapon. Kaya they have already transferred to papel ng Biblia. So from now on, if you've heard, holy smoke, smoke na, holy pa, marijuana po yan. Because the smoke that comes out from the paper they use out from that Bible is called holy smoke, di ba? Lamang ang may alam. Sir Santi, ano naman tong mga to? Dried seeds ng marijuana. And the dried seeds are very dangerous. It is made of 2 chemical components, hashish oil and tetrahydrocannabinol. And hashish oil is very strong because that can even make that particular user blind. Mabubulag ang taong gumagamit ng to at mamamatay ang daga. Again, ang daga po ang mamamatay. Ang tao ay mabubulag. That's how powerful yung hashish oil, which is one of the components po of the dried seeds of marijuana. Lahat ng parte ng marijuana ginagamit for tripping purposes. So with the bud or the flower of marijuana, ginagamit nila yan for tripping purposes para walang sayang, walang tapon. To know more about marijuana, let's discuss the different street names. I've mentioned about 5 fingers, pot, rolling paper, joints, nakita nyo to? Mads, binaliktad yan na damo. Nilagyan lang ng S para maging sosyal. Sana walang Mary Jane na yung pangalan niya po ay inspired ng marijuana. Kasi Mary Jane is the English female version of marijuana and MJ is the English male version of marijuana. And ito po ang pag-pronounce nito ay dalawa. If you belong to the Highlander, you pronounce this term as chonky, pataas, chonky. Pero kapag pag lowlander, chonke, pababa, chonke. Di ba, tingnan mo naman? Alright, meron tayong damo. Kung meron pong mga Ilonggo dito na naligaw sa ating mga Bicolano, jutes po, ibig sabihin jutay, cut into smaller pieces. And meron tayong cupcake and etc. Of course, etc. is not one of the street names. That means marami pang iba. So kailangan talaga malaman natin at maintindihan na marami mga street names na ito na kailangan nating matandaan. Baka mamaya yung mga kasakay natin sa jeep, yung mga barkada nag-uusap, they are talking about this and we do not know. The scientific name of marijuana is cannabis. If you read your Bible, there is a place called Canaan. And the people who lived in Canaan are called Canaanites. And that is also the same reason why Adolf Hitler was said to be a user of marijuana. Kasi bago niya daw ipapatay yung mga against his leadership, pinapamariwana yung mga soldiers so that they have the guts and the power to kill. And the Rastafari, yung mga dreadlocks yung hair, but I'm not saying all of them. For them to be called full-fledged musician, the final ritual is to smoke marijuana. It has been featured in the correspondence dati na show sa ABS-CBN. They featured a live band na yung pinaka-last ritual or before they start their performance, they are smoking marijuana. And that is also the same reason why the Beatles or Bob Marley was reported to be user of marijuana. Diba? Because para maging full-fledged musician sila, the first ritual that they do is to smoke marijuana. But I'm not saying all the live bands are, but they were featured. May mga na-feature dati sa mga news and current affairs. And the correspondence, there was one feature po na yung isang live band po ay bago mag-start ng kanyang performance ay nagmamarijuana. And there were reports na yung the Beatles po, for them to be called full-fledged musician, part of the ritual is to smoke marijuana. And the main ingredient po of marijuana is tetrahydrocannabinol. Allow me to discuss about drug testing. There are two instrumentation, but I want to make it clear that drug testing is not a standalone thing. Na-mention kanina ni Doc Pam na drug testing is also a program, pero we are not just single-outing drug testing. Drug testing is just a component. We should be doing a comprehensive drug abuse prevention program. We should be able to have an advocacy, education, and training. And for us to be able to know if who is using drugs or not, it is through scientific and medical way, through drug testing. Again, it is just one of the components. Because if we are just using drug testing to roll out who are the possible users, it is very punitive. Punitive yun in nature. And we don't want that punitive type or scare tactics approach because it's not evidence-based. We want it to be holistic or comprehensive. So drug testing is just part. Advocacy, education, and training, that's what we are doing today. There's also treatment and rehabilitation just in case meron pong mga mag-positive during the drug test, and there should be monitoring and evaluation. If the school during the drug testing process for the students and for all the employees, kapag yung mga empleyado po nagpa-drug test, none has been tested positive, ilalagay natin that Drug Check Philippines certifies etong school na to is a drug-free school. Let's keep it that way. This will also inspire our students and our employees that the school is not just doing it for compliance, but it is actually committed, diba, to be drug-free. Drug-free school, drug-free workplace, drug-free students, drug-free employees, all the premises. Diba po? So napaka-powerful po nun. Okay? There are two instrumentations of drug testing. Una po is the initial test. Kapag pregnancy test po, pagpatak ng ihi at may dalawang linya, that means positive na buntis. Sa COVID antigen test, pagpatak ng nasal or ng saliva at may dalawang linya, that means positive. Sa HIV test, pagpatak ng dugo at may dalawang linya, that means positive. Sa drug test po, pagpatak ng ihi at may dalawang linya, that means negative. Ulitin ko po kanina po, yung pregnancy test, pag may mga dalawang linya, antigen test, dalawang linya, HIV test, may dalawang linya, positive. Pero sa drug test po, pagpatak ng ihi at may dalawang linya, negative po ito. Pagpatak ng ihi at klaro ito, that means there is a finding. But not yet enough para sabihin na yung tao na to ay positive agad sa drugs. There should be the next confirmatory test. Kung test kit ang gamit sa initial test, ang gamit sa confirmatory test is gas chromatography, mass spectrometry. And sabi ng batas, this GCMS machine is allowed to be 100% accurate. Ulitin natin, 100% accurate. Hindi pwedeng 99.9% lang yung accuracy po ng confirmatory test. It should be 100%. Tanungin niyo akong bakit? Hindi pwede na hindi pa siya nakakita ng droga, false positive result. But don't you worry, kahit nag-positive ka sa initial test, gagawin pa rin ang confirmatory test. Sir Santi, umami na siyang nag-drugs, pero nag-negative pa rin sa confirmatory. Ano to? Mali-mali ba yung result? O nagsisinungaling yung tao kasi umami na siya Alright. Hindi ibig sabihin na nag-negative siya sa confirmatory test, di ba umami na siya, ay hindi siya gumamit ng drugs. Kasi meron po mga basis po yan. merong cut-off level. And if I may discuss it in layman's perspective, from 1 to 10, ang baseline mo ay 5. Pag umabot ka lang sa confirmatory test ng 4.9, kahit 0.1 lang ito, kahit pwede naman itong i-round off, hindi pa rin po positive ang result. Negative pa rin po. Why? Because the test that we release is not a quantitative type of test, but a qualitative type of test. There's only positive and negative na makikita doon. Wala pong gray area na dapat positive to kaso hindi siya umabot sa amount required. Bakit nag-negative siya? Bakit? Kasi hindi puro yung kaniyang tinake na drugs. Yung shabu na tinake niya ay peke. May dinikdik na tawas, albatross, and pinaka-worse, dinikdik ng bumbilya ng fluorescent lamp. O, di ba? Imagine, wala ngang epekto yun sa result niya, pero may epekto naman yun sa brain niya. Kaya ang ating kampanya, wag tumikim. Ulitin natin ang kampanya, wag tumikim. Perfect. Sir Santi, how is marijuana being taken? It is being taken as they smoked it and they blend it with food and eaten. Sir Santi, ano ang epekto ng marijuana? Una, it is a downer drug. It makes your mental activity slow. Ginagawa kang 4 na letra, Tagalog inuulit which starts with letter B. Yan, so alam nyo na yan. May epekto siya sa mathematical skills and confusion. And may epekto siya sa sexual life. I want to focus doon sa sexual life. Ano ang epekto niya sa sexual life? Hindi ka makakabuo. For men, magkakaroon ka ng temporary loss of fertility or pagkabaog. And for women, irregularity of menstrual cycle or menstrual period. Pero what if nakabuo kayo? I have a story. After my talk, a couple approached me and told me, Sir Santi, nasagot na pala yung tanong namin. Because 20 years ago, we adopted a 4-year-old boy. We got good tutor, nothing happened. We sent the boy to good schools, but nothing happened. The effect of using marijuana is hindi lang sa taong gumagamit nito, kundi may epekto siya sa bata. And the sad thing, kapag kababaihan po, yung mga nanay ay nagpapadede, yung tetrahydrocannabinol sumasama sa gatas ninyo. Pag na-intake ng bata, may tama yung bata. Now, the question is, ano yung tama sa bata? Take a look at the first slide. Congenital problem. That is the effect doon sa bata. Imagine yung magulang ang gumamit ng droga, pero yung bata yung nagka-problema. Kung may choice lang siguro yung bata, baka nagsalita na yan. Kaya di ba yung irresponsibility na dala ng paggamit ng marijuana ng mga magulang ay na-transfer doon sa bata na walang kaalam-alam? Isn't it that unfair? Hindi lang yan yung epekto doon sa bata, but physical deformities as well. And the next slide is, grabe, detrimental yung effect. Kaya nga sinabi kanina di ba sa umpisa natin yung mga definition natin, detrimental yung effect hindi lang sa taong gumagamit, kundi doon sa pamilya niya. And this particular thing, in the case of using marijuana, doon sa bata mismo. And what if yung nanay at yung tatay, parehong gumagamit ng marijuana, what will happen to the baby? You are going to produce a big watery head. And hindi po ito chismis lang. This is not fake news. Look at this, Parents who are heavy users of LSD, thank God walang LSD sa Pinas. And marijuana, marijuana, which is the #1 drug being abused by the current users, are likely to produce children with hydrocephalus. It's a big watery head. And we have a study together with Dr. Malilay about a mother na baby. Yung bata gamit-gamit sa pamamalimos sa MRT Ortigas Station. The usual tendency for a baby is to cry pag naiinitan, to react pag naiingayan. But that baby under our study tamang manhead. And the sad thing at 12 noon, kalong-kalong ng nanay ang anak niya, kumakatok sa windshield ng sasakyan, yung bata parang nakatulala lang. And based from the medical study we conducted, parents of that particular baby, both of them are marijuana dependents. It is very alarming to note sa mga nakikinig sa atin ngayon that the price of marijuana these days is only 12 pesos per tea bag size. And 12 pesos, a high school pupil can have access to the 12 pesos. And yung nakakatakot nito, base sa survey ng Dangerous Drugs Board, yung pinakabatang gumagamit ng marijuana is as young as 9 years old, as young as 10 years old. They already have access to marijuana because it's only 12 pesos per tea bag size. And this is very alarming. And this is actually a nice platform for all of us not to stop talking about this one. Our campaign is prevention. Huwag tumikim. Paulit-ulit na huwag tumikim. Kapag nakatikim na, itigil na yan before it will be too late, before it will actually end and lead into addiction. Kasi napakahirap po. Wala pang nagsabi ng dahil gumamit ng droga, gumanda ang buhay. So bakit pagagamit? Again, kung wala kang droga sa buhay mo, ang kinabukasan mo buo, sigurado, doon tayo dapat tumataya sa sigurado, huwag sa siguro lang. Gets po? Congratulations everyone, we are done with the first topic. Let's proceed to our next topic. Opium did not originate in China. It originated from the old kingdom of Samaria about 4,000 years before Christ. And the use of drugs has been condemned in religious texts. In fact, in the Holy Scripture of the book of Judges of the Old Testament, there was already mentioning of drug. Ano ito, Sir Santi? Pinatulog ni Delilah si Samson. Ano ang sinasabi nito? Using a drug-laced wine. It was not mentioned what kind of drugs, but one thing is for sure. It was mentioned in there that it was a drug-laced wine. Hindi man minention nung unang panahon kung may shabu na, wala pa siguro naman. Oh, anong klaseng droga yung mga noong unang panahon? But what was evident is it was drug-laced wine. Kaya nakatulog o pinatulog Samson po, pinatulog ni Delilah si Samson using a drug-laced wine. And in the Greek and Roman literature, Cleopatra was said to have drunk a narcotic-laced wine. Ang ibig sabihin po ng narcotic sa Griego or sa Greek ay nanggaling sa salitang narcoticos, nang ibig sabihin ay sleep. Ang patulog, narcotic-laced wine. Okay? Before allowing her to be bitten by a poisonous ass from the Nile River. And Nero, na nilason ang kanyang sariling ina, was drug-crazed habang pinapanood ang pagkasunog ng Roma. And of course, yung mga Romano nung unang panahon ay gumagamit ng cocaine para sa kanilang black magic or sa kanilang ritual para maging in pa yung kanilang black magic. Sa Pilipinas, hindi uso ang cocaine. Nauso lang naman ang cocaine na ito at naging sensational. At na-interview tayo ni Maurice O'Malley para sa kanyang feature sa 24 oras nung sinabi ni President Duterte na may isang presidentiable ang nagkukocaine. At tinanong tayo ni Maurice O'Malley of the instrumentation sa pag-conduct ng drug testing po para malaman kung yung tao ay gumagamit ng cocaine. Because there are different types of doing drug testing po to the different substances. Pwedeng ihi, that is the gold standard. Pwede pong blood, pwede pong saliva, pwede pong hair follicle, pwede pong tissue, at pwede pong sweat. So, ibig sabihin, marami pong mga ways kung paano po makokonduct ang drug testing. But in the Philippines, yung pinaka-most standard na ginagamit is through urine drug testing. Kapag medyo may kinalaman na ito sa krimen, yung PNP Crime Laboratory, ginagamit po ay drug testing through blood. Pero minsan, yung iba ayaw nila yung through blood because they can refuse. Kasi pinapapasukan na sila ng injection eh. Kapag nag-refuse sila, hindi na natin sila pwedeng mapilit. Kaya yung pinaka-gold standard for drug testing in the Philippines is through urine. Kasi hindi ka naman pwedeng mag-refuse na hindi ka magpapa-drug test kasi ihi ang kinuha sa'yo. Diba? Because that is not already a violation of your human rights. In the Philippines po, walang gumagamit ng cocaine, pero may gumagamit ng poor man's cocaine. And this is the number 1 drugs na binaabuso sa Pilipinas ngayon ng mga lifetime user. Ito po ay shabu. Mag-ingat tayo sa fake news. Ang daming fake news. At isa sa mga fake news po that has alarmed me is mag-ingat daw sa pagkain ng isda. Kasi meron daw isang hospital sa may Cebu na nag-release ng contaminated liquid na pinaghihinalaan na may HIV contaminants. At kapag nakain daw ng isda yung HIV contaminants, ay baka mahawaan daw ng HIV ang isda. At pag nakain nyo daw yung isda, ay baka mahawaan daw kayo ng HIV na nanggaling sa isda. Yung mga paraan kung paano matatransmit ang HIV ay una, pag nakipagtali ka sa taong may HIV na walang protection. Pangalawa, pag nasalinan ka ng dugo ng may HIV. Pangatlo, pag nanay at tatay mo ay may HIV. So masasalinan ka lang ng HIV kung una, nakipagtalik ka sa isda. Tama. So sino kaya in the proper right mind na nakipagtalik sa isda? Pangalawa, pag nasalinan ka ng dugo ng isda, eh kung may katabi ka, pakiamoy ang katabi kung malansa kasi nasalinan ito ng dugo ng isda during the blood transfusion. At pangatlo, pag nanay at tatay mo ay isda, kaya tingnan ang katabi kong mukhang isda. Right? Kaya lagi nating tatandaan na mag-ingat tayo sa fake news, dapat evidence-based. Kasi ang ibig sabihin po ng HIV, yung letter H po doon ay human, hindi hisda. Kaya importante po na magkaroon tayo ng mga ganitong klaseng pag-uusap. Why? Kasi binibigyan natin ng linaw. Ang daming fake news, it's there, here, and everywhere. Diba? O, kapag may ganito tayong paglilinaw, ay, okay pala, kaya pala ganun yun. Okay? So sa shabu po, ito po yung crystal form, parang bilog na tawas. Powdered form, parang dinikdik na tawas. At ngayong panahon po, meron na pong tablet form. At magugulat kayo, alam niyo kung bakit? tumaas ang HIV cases sa Pilipinas, it is because of the use of drugs through syringe. Pag sinabing syringe, it is being done through your veins, intravenous ways, injection. What if the first person who used the needle or syringe was infected with HIV? Siyempre may dugo yun. Pag naiwan doon at na-inject ito sa pangalawang tao na gagamit using the same syringe, posibleng matransmit sa kanya yung blood na nandun sa pinakadulo ng needle at posibleng matransmit sa kanya yung HIV. Kaya, parte ng aking advocacy po is not just drug prevention, but also HIV awareness. Kasi yung paggamit po ng droga through intravenous ways can also transmit HIV. Kaya, ano siya nagko-connect kasi po yung akin pong advocacy is mental health, which is one of the causes po ng paggamit ng droga. Yung drug prevention, yun na po, yung naging dahilan ng bakit siya gumamit. Diba? And of course, yung HIV awareness. Yun. So, tatlo yan na magkaka-connect. Okay, let's talk about it. Yung main ingredient po ng shabu is methamphetamine hydrochloride. Of course, ano ang mga street names nito, Sir Santi? Bato, not the senator. Pag binaliktad mo, otab. Pag naging plural, otabs, nilagyan ng S. Ang pag-pronounce ito, shrubs. Shrubs. Di ba? Ang arte ng pag-pronounce. Ubas. Aish. Poor man's cocaine. Mention ko na kanina. Speed. Star. Crystal. Uppers. And yung pinakabago ngayon, inutusan mo yung anak mo na bumili sa tindahan. And then nagulat siya, Nay, meron po, pasa load daw, pero walang cellphone at walang load na transmit. Shabu yan. Dinadaan yan sa kamay na mabilis. So dapat alam natin, lamang ang may alam. Ang pinaka-dangerous at nakakatakot na droga na naimbento sa buong mundo. Alam nyo kung ano? Shabu. Alam nyo kung bakit? Kasi even a single exposure can lead to psychosis. Isang beses ka lang gumamit ng shabu, posibleng matamaan ka na. Psychosis that will lead to schizophrenia, pagkabaliw, lost from the present world. Sisa, yan ang mangyayari. And direkta yan sa brain. Yung marijuana medyo lesser evil pa eh. When you smoke, it will go to your lungs. It will be secreted to your bloodstreams, transferred to your body parts, bago sa brain. Pero yung shabu, ecstasy, heroin, and cocaine, direkta yan sa brain. Sir Santi, ano ang epekto ng shabu sa tao? Kasi sinabi mo kanina, even a single exposure can lead to psychosis similar to schizophrenia. Look at this. The faces of meth. 5 years ago, eto ang itsura. After 5 years, look at what happened to the person. But after 10 years, look at yourself. Look at what happened to you. Di ba meron ka na automatic na dimples? Contoured na yung cheeks mo? Yan ang mangyayari sa'yo kapag ikaw ay nagshabu. Pero more than that, we have to process, Sir Santi, anong epekto nito sa brain? Kasi isang beses lang pala gumamit ng shabu, tatamaan na yung brain. And look at your brain. This is the normal brain. Ito yung actual CT scan of the normal brain. Sa ating lahat dito, palakpakan ang bawat isa. Your normal brain looks exactly this way if you are going to undergo a CT scan. Pero kapag ikaw ay gumamit ng shabu at nagkaroon ng adverse effects, look at what will happen to your brain. Ito yung butas-butas na. And ito yung the same reason why, di ba? Yung frontal lobe, pagbabago ng ugali at naging violente, temporal lobe, kung ano-ano ang naririnig, occipital lobe, kung ano-ano ang nakikita. Ito yung evidence. This is the proof. Very dramatic yung ating approach. Kanina, diniscuss ko lang. Pero ipapakita natin. Anong nangyari? Ito yung itsura niya. This is a methamphetamine abuse. Yan yung itsura ng brain. Kung bakit nagkaroon ng epekto sa frontal lobe, naging violente, naririnig, nagkaroon ng hallucination, auditory, and occipital lobe, nagkaroon ng visual hallucination. And look at this, kapag namatay na, ano ang mangyayari sa brain? This is the actual cross-section of the human infected brain. And if you are going to ask me, Sir Santi, ano tong part na to? This is just the frontal lobe. Wala pa dyan yung occipital, wala pa dyan yung parietal, wala pa dyan yung frontal. Sabi ni Duterte, sabi niya noon, I may not like some of his policies. Diba? Pero ang sinabi niya, my God, I hate drugs. Pag ikaw ay gumamit ng shabu, sunog ka. And that's exactly the message of the president. Sunog talaga. Tama siya. Sunog na sunog ang brain mo. Look at this, Yan. Sunog yan. And eto na, patay na ang may-ari niyan. Sunog talaga yung brain. That is exactly what will happen to the person kapag nagkaroon ng adverse effect and would lead to addiction kapag gumamit ng shabu. Tama na naman tayo. Walang gumamit ng droga. Ang nagsabing naging okay yung buhay nila kasi gumamit sila. John Regala's testimony, alam nating lahat yan. During the Dutch Entertainment Days, sinabi ni John Regala in his interviews, several interviews, na during that time, ang dami niyang pera, hindi lang siya naging user, naging pusher pa. That was in his interviews. Anong nangyari sa kanya? Di ba ngayon, binalikan siya ng kanyang katawan. And, too bad, hindi lang yung sa katawan niya, kundi pati yung pamilya niya, iniwanan siya. It will not only affect the person, it will affect the family, it will affect the society, it will affect the community. Kaya ang pinaka-mantra natin, huwag tumikim. At kapag nakatikim, itigil na yan. But of course, we have a responsibility to bring the person to the right facility for the right intervention. At sana maagapan natin at matulungan sila na ma-reintegrate sila sa society at maging parte ulit ng nation building, na maging kabahagi ulit ng pag-unlad ng bansa. Because there is still life. Kaya pa nating matulungan kapag maaagapan. Pero what if, nandun na sa compulsive behavior, nandun na sa pinaka-borderline, di ba na mahirap na? Kaya ang kampanya, wag tumikim, wag tumikim. This message definitely is for the young generation of today. Okay? All right, let's move on. Because we are finished for the second type of topic. All right? Peruvian and Mexican Incas use narcotics. They mix coca leaves and roots plus corn in religious rituals. Kala, nung unang panahon pa ang mga poly user. Ano ang poly user? Ito ang tawag sa mga gumagamit ng droga na hindi lang isa. Kasi pag isa, mono user yon. Pag poly user, they mix different drugs with the others. Kung titingnan mo, noon pang panahon na yon, uso na ang mga poly user. Because of the Peruvian and Mexican Incas which use narcotics like coca leaves plus roots plus corn in religious ritual. And Romantic period, Christian crusade against Attila the Hun, led by Knights of Charlemagne the Great, fights the paladins from the ranks of Turks. Sino naman itong mga Attila na to? Sino sila? Kasi yung kilala lang natin dyan ay Knights of Charlemagne the Great. Sino mga Attila the Hun? Sino yung mga paladins na ito? Sila po ay mga miyembro ng kulto na nirecruit ng Attila the Hun. Yung paladins, mga miyembro ng kulto yan ha. Nirecruit sila ng Attila the Hun and they were given narcotic hashish para ipadala for suicidal mission, assassinations, and murders. Kaya you will learn something from me today. Yung word na assassin po was taken from the root word hashassin. It was taken from the word hashassin and hashassin was taken from the root word hash. And yung hash na yan ay alam ninyo nang galing po yan sa marijuana dried seeds. Oh, 'di ba? Imagine suicidal mission, kaya mo bang gawin yung isang mission na 'yan na magse-suicide ka if you are not under the influence of drugs? Assassination, 'di ba? Murder, kaya nagagawa yung mga karumal-dumal na krimen according to the Philippine National Police because the person is under the influence of drugs. Homer, in his book Odyssey, mentioned about a drug which quenches pain and strife and brings forgetfulness to every ill. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Which quenches pain. So pain reliever ito, physical pain. Pero may minention pa dito, which brings forgetfulness to every ill. Ito yung sakit na dala ng pagmamahal. Yung mga na-friend zone, kaya sinabihan kang kaibigan mo lang ako. And I'm so stupid to be making the biggest mistake of falling in love with my best friend. Sa mga na-friend zone yan. Oh. At sa mga meron namang Basha and Popoy tandem, she had me at my best. You had me at my best. She had me at my worst, but you chose to break my heart. Sana ako na lang. Ako na lang ulit. Oh, Popoy and Basha yan. Mahal mo ba ako kasi kailangan mo ako? O kailangan mo ako kaya mahal mo ako? Piolo naman ang Claudine yan. At bakit ko isinabi itong mga etong klase na to na mga hugot-hugot? Bakit, Sir Santi? Kasi po sa pag-aaral, marami pong mga kabataan ngayon ang tumitikim ng droga because they are broken-hearted. Because they don't know how to handle it. Diba? Because it's so easy for their lives. Gadgets are there. Diba? Napapadali ang buhay nila. Hindi katulad natin, we are born in the 90s, the 70s pala, mga batang 90s tayo. Diba? O, ano tayo? Ano pa ba yung hindi natin kakayanin, kayang-kaya na natin? Yung mga kabataan sa panahon ngayon, mahirapan lang. Diba? Kung saan-saan na nila hinahanap yung kanilang kaligayahan. And this is actually a good message for those, especially those who are broken-hearted. Come on. Diba? There is life even after a broken heart. Okay? Yung mga taong umaalis sa buhay natin, they are just there. Diba? For a very particular season and for a very specific reason. And sometimes kahit mahal pa natin, kailangan palayain na natin. Kasi di ba ang tunay na pag-ibig ay makita ang taong mahal mo na masaya kahit hindi na ikaw ang kasama niya. Kasi ikaw nga ang kasama niya pero hindi naman pala siya masaya. It is the art of letting go. When we see other people, will other people happy because of us. When we see the people we love happy, kahit hindi na tayo ang nagpapaligay at nagpapasaya sa kanila, that is really an unselfish kind of love. Oy. Yan o, sa libro po yan. Sa libro ng Homer in Odyssey. Okay? And Shakespeare could have been alluding to opium when he wrote, tingnan mo to look where he come, not poppy. So ito opium yan, opium, nor mandragoma, nor all the drowsy syrup. Nung 1970s po ang inauso noon ay cough syrup, wala na ngayon yan. Okay? Drowsy syrup naman ang minention dito ni Shakespeare. Shall ever medicine thee. Diba? And ito, minention niya, narcoticos din to. Ayun, pampatulog, which you thou asked yesterday. So meron din siyang love, na something, the pain, diba? Na kailangan niyang pagdaanan. O yan, but he could have been alluding to opium when he said these things. And of course, yung ibig sabihin po ng narcoticos ay sleep. Okay? And we are moving on to the third most commonly abused drugs in the country. And since meron tayong mga estudyante, kailangan ko talagang i-include ito because party drug or rave drug ang pinaka-inaabusong design for ecstasy. Anong itsura ng party and rave drug? Ito yun. At kung maalala nyo, gusto kong i-remind tayong lahat na meron pong 5 kabataan, they were rushed to the hospital. That was 8 years ago after or during the BOA concert grounds. And it was believed na nilagay ang party drug doon sa alak na ininom nila. They were declared dead on arrival. Sir Santi, bakit? Kapag nangyari yun, pinapabilis ang pintig ng puso mo, tumataas ang blood pressure mo, you are in drought, you need water. Without water, you will drop dead. Yan po ang effect ng MTV drug or party drug or rave drug. Kung naalala niyo po, yung isang teenager sa Cebu na pinahanap ni President Duterte ang boyfriend because it was reported na yung boyfriend ang nag-convince doon sa girlfriend niya na ilagay yung party drug na ito, yung rave drug doon sa kanyang iniinom na alak. 'Di ba? And wala pa talaga, ay grabe, as in yung party drug na ito, yung ecstasy, yung mga kabataan nasasayang ang buhay. Kaya kailangan talaga we really have to arm ourselves, to educate ourselves. Yung akala lang ng iba, high na high lang during parties, hindi nila alam kung ano ang mangyayari sa kanila. 'Di ba? Yan ang katotohanan nitong ecstasy na to, itong designer drug na ito that the young generations of today should avoid. Kaya sa mga nakikinig sa atin, yung mga estudyante, you have to be careful if you're attending parties, if you are going to a bar, make sure na nandun ka sa mga taong pinagkakatiwalaan mo na hindi ka sasaktan. Nakuha po na hindi ka iaabuso, na hindi ka pagsasamantalahan. Alright? Kaya dapat, halimbawa, ito yung ano mo, ito yung water mo, kailangan habang nagsasayaw ka sa dance floor, bit-bit mo rin yung water mo kasi baka mamay may maglagay eh. At kahit nag-CR ka, dala mo rin. Okay lang naman praning kaysa maging biktima ka. Okay? I'm just making it funny pero ang gusto ko lang sabihin is you need to arm yourself. Now, arm yourself with what? With education, with looking at your surroundings. Kailangan talaga, alam natin na safe tayo doon sa isang lugar na yun. Okay? Ayan, that is what you call party or rave drug. Yung next design po, ito, Mitsubishi emblem, and this one is a Volkswagen. And whom are the users of those designs? Pretty obvious, drivers and drag racers. They can drive for 24 to 48 hours without eating, without stopping, without sleeping, and it seems they are the kings of the road. Commonwealth Avenue in Quezon City way back was known as a killer highway. It was a venue for drag racing. For the drag racers, you can drive for 24 to 48 hours without eating, without stopping. Can you do that? You cannot. Your body is resisting, but your mind is telling you, hey, you can still drive. The effect is car accident. Yes po, car accident. Next design, star design. Ano ang epekto ng star design? Makakakita ka ng stars sa katanghaliang tapat. Imagine, daytime may stars. Di ba? Oh, next design, Calvin Klein design. I was able to interview a 33-year-old, very good-looking man. He's addicted to Calvin Klein design. Yung ginagawa lang niya after the tripping, pupunta sa mall. Feeling niya lahat na nakakasalubong niya, pinapalakpakan siya because it seems that he is wearing a Calvin Klein brand. It gives him an added self-confidence level. Kailangan pa ba talaga ng droga na yan para magkaroon ng confidence level? Ikaw sapat na? Yung pinaka-most saleable design po, makinig, lalo na sa mga kabataan ngayon, love drug, otherwise known as libido. I was able to interview 23-year-old, very good-looking woman. She's addicted to love drug. Ang ginagawa lang niya during the tripping, uupo sa sulok, i-rub yung skin niya. It seems nakipagtalik siya with partner and the reach niya kung ano man ang iniisip ninyo, meaning having sex without a partner, but just taking the love drug and rubbing your skin. Diba? The main ingredient po of ecstasy is methylene dioxymethamphetamine. It means methamphetamine is shabu. Shabu. May shabu content yan. Hindi ito kagaya ng shabu at marijuana na small time. Nakita nyo, walang Tagalog sa street name ng ecstasy. Look at the street names. Social, XTC, Ave, Essence, Lover Speed, Herbal Bliss, Hog Drug, Mercedes, 'di ba? At kung ano-ano pa, yung kaninang love drug po ay otherwise known as LBD or libido. All right? And kagaya po ng shabu, isang beses ka lang gumamit niyan that would lead you to affecting your brains, that will lead to having what? Psychosis, similar to schizophrenia, pagkabaliw, lost from the present world. Sisa, yun yung epekto niyan. Okay? Now, moving on to our discussion. Opium did not originate in China. It was first cultivated in the old kingdom of Samaria. Cultivated in Middle East and later in India, in Pakistan, and in Afghanistan, then part of the British Empire. Marco Polo, an Italian traveler, introduced opium to the throne of Kublai Khan. And 5 centuries later, an opium trade between China and the Portuguese merchant becomes so lucrative, it becomes so ambitious, but was banned in 1729. Buti na lang meron mga magagaling at magagandang hangarin nung unang panahon pa base sa history, diba? Where drugs are proliferating, yung opium between China and the Portuguese merchant become very lucrative business. There was this Qing emperor, diba? Chinese Qing Emperor na nag-ban in 1729 pero natalo pa rin siya. Ano ang nakatalo sa kanya? Chinese triad, which is very evident in this day and age. Yung Chinese triad pa rin, and one of those powerful drug traffickers in the world ay nag-ugat na rin noon. May Chinese triad na rin noong unang panahon na nakontrol ang Chinese Qing Emperor na nag-ban ng opium between China and the Portuguese merchant. Diba? Ang nag-ban ay ineffective. Bakit? The Chinese triads were there. Okay? And British took over and in 1773 established the opium trade monopoly through the British East Indies Company. Oh, yun pala yung Sir Santi. And then ipagpatuloy natin yung pag-uusap ng dahil dito, ano po ang kauna-unahang war na nangyari sa history ng Hong Kong and Great Britain? Meron po bang magsasagot? Meron po ba? Okay, a reminder po daw of the time. Sorry po, okay, may 10 minutes pa yata ako. Meron po ba? Opium War, perfect. Si Sir John Franco. Thank you, Sir John Franco. Opium War, correct po yan. Okay. And dahil dito, nagkaroon ng batas. Yung Republic Act 9165, create po ito. Bakit? To safeguard the territory. Yung ating po mga airport, may drug-sniffing dogs na. Pero gusto ko sana, pati yung ating mga shipping ports, because wala naman talagang laboratory sa Pinas. All drugs are transshipped. And since we are an island and we are surrounded with water, kailangan nating paigtingin yung ating mga borders ngayon to protect the well-being of our citizens and to prevent the use and abuse of dangerous drugs through our platforms and maidala yung may mga problema sa drug abuse at merong mga disorder sa right facility for the right intervention. Drug testing is one of the components ng ating pong programa. Sino po ang magkoconduct ng drug test? Of course, PDEA and PNP Crime Laboratory. Pag hindi nila kaya, of course, mga accredited po ng Department of Health. Sino ang kailangan pong i-drug test? Una, applicants for driver's license. Those who will renew, they are no longer required to undergo drug tests. Sabi ni Senator Tito Soto na dating chairman ng DDB at naging Senate President, wala daw man daw nagpa-positive. Bakit? Pinasukan na ng fixer eh. Pero para sa akin, if you look at the reason why, bakit ka nagkaroon ng batas is an aid for prevention. The mere fact that the person stopped the use of drugs, that is already an aid for prevention. Pero syempre di naman ako lawmaker. Ayan. Applicants for firearms license, lahat ng mga security personnel, lahat ng mga gustong humawak ng baril para makakuha ng lisensya dapat may drug test. The reason why we have this program sa mga students po natin sa secondary and tertiary schools is because this is actually part of the law. Ayan. So kaya nandito tayo ngayon. We're doing the advocacy, education, and training. Pero para sa mga minors, kailangan ng parents' consent po bago sila i-drug test. And that should not be used to expel them, but rather it will be used to monitor their behavior, both inside and outside the school premises. Officers and members of the military required din lahat ng kumakandidato. Pero ngayon, hindi na sila required. Ask me why. Kasi sabi nila, hindi naman daw lahat ng kumakandidato ay nananalo. Ang galing ng reasoning. Alright. And all charged with criminal offense, kasi para ma-roll out kung ito ay may kinalaman sa droga. And of course, sa mga empleyado po, mga teachers, non-teaching staff na nakatutok sa atin ngayon kasama yung mga parents mo na nagtatrabaho din, officers and employees of private and public offices na may 10 empleyado pataas, kailangan po talagang magkaroon ng policy on drug-free workplace program and the implementation of drug testing. Penalties po, sa unang pagkakataon kapag nag-positive sa drug test, huli pero hindi kulong. Rehabilitation for 6 months yan. Pero pangalawang pagkakataon, huli pero kulong. 12 years yan pinakamatagal at magbabayad ng up to 200,000. Pero kapag ikaw ay nahulihan po na nagbibenta ng droga, ano mangyayari? Criminal act po yan. It has a criminal liability. Ano po ang iyong penalty? Hanggang 10 milyon. At pagkakakulong ng habang buhay. Ayun. Now, nandito na tayo sa exciting part. Thank you very much to our host for reminding me about my time. Ayan. So, factors affecting drug abuse. Curiosity, please, sa ating mga kabataan ngayon, makurious tayo sa mga bagay na makapagbibigay sa atin ng magandang buhay. Huwag sa mga bagay kagaya ng bisyo na sa atin ay makakamatay. I love the rhyme. Ayun. So, dapat maalala nyo yan. Quotable quotes. Alright, economic crisis. Marami pong nagbenta ng drugs sa hirap ng buhay, pero marami din pong nakaahon sa buhay kasi lumaban ng patas. Doon tayo sa hindi nakakasira ng buhay. Doon tayo sa nakakabuhay. Alright? Family problems, it can become a protective factor and risk factor. So tingnan natin ito. Yung family po, ang meaning is father and mother, I love you. We still go back to our family kasi isuka ka ng buong mundo. Pagbalik mo sa pamilya mo, meron at meron pa rin yayakap sa'yo. Our family should come first. Family-based intervention is really very effective. Evidence-based po yan in the intervention po for drug prevention and treatment. Boredom, gulong-gulo na. Calamity and pandemic, okay? Those are also one of the reasons. Availability of drugs, that's why we need to surround ourselves with people na magandang influensya sa buhay natin. Stress, okay, nabanggit ko kanina, it can bring out the best and the beast in us. Sana tingnan natin ito na positive sa atin. Okay. And pressure, okay, wag tayo magpadala sa pressure ng social media and the world. Dapat chill tayo. Okay, sa lahat ng bagay, chill pa rin tayo. And distorted values, alam natin ang tama at mali. We continue to do the right thing. Kahit yung iba hindi gumagawa ng tama, diretso pa rin tayo sa tama. Kaya pa rin nating manindigan kahit mag-isa tayo kasi alam natin na nasa tama tayo. And the lack of information. Ilan ang letra ng knowledge? 9. Ilan ang letra ng ignorance? 9. So I hope this afternoon I was able to provide you knowledge. Again, lamang ang may alam. With knowledge comes power. But it does not end in there. We need to apply what we've learned para maging power. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Ayan, thank you so much, Sir Santi, for that incredibly informative and inspiring talk. Ayan, heart react naman for Sir Santi.
Thank you
Grabe,
so much.
grabe, sir. Grabe talaga. As a student, ang dami ko pong nakuhang pulot and I believe that everyone here feels the same way as me. So, para po sa akin, your talk was more than just about illegal drugs. Your talk was the one we needed to hear po. It reminded us na parang we are the product of our choices, not
Correct.
by our circumstances.
Correct.
Na kailangan natin pag-isipan lahat ng desisyon sa buhay. Sabi mo nga, sir, kanina, no to sad, yes to happy life.
Yay!
Ayan, sir. So once again, sir, thank you so much po for sharing your wisdom with us. And I am sure po that all of us here will carry your words and energy. Grabe yung energy, sir. And even after this webinar. So ayan, thank you so much again po, sir. For now, we are done po with the first part of our webinar. And I know that after having listened to the presentation by our competent speaker, I am sure na sobrang excited din kayo to ask your questions or share your insights. So if you have questions or comments po for Sir Santi, you may already accomplish the Google form that will be shared in the chat box. But before the open forum po, may we just recognize the presence of our students of the CIFP and NSTP program of Ateneo de Naga University. So, kaway-kaway naman dyan, mga first and second year students. So, we thank the faculty po, especially to Department Head Ma'am Jude. Ayan po, aside from dito sa Zoom, we also have 230 plus participants in our ADNO-OSA YouTube live stream. So, hello guys! We would also like to acknowledge then the presence of students coming from all over Bicol region. So, sir, this is thanks po to the cooperation of the Bicol Council of Deans and Directors of Student Affairs and Services, headed by our very own Sir Sonny Virtus, the BCOD SAS president. So we also extend our thanks to the other BCOD SAS officers who are joining us today. Ayan po, thank you so much. And now we have come to the open forum part of the program. At this point, may I now invite our speaker, invited sharer, and reactors, and Sir Sonny to join us in this open forum. So, to our participants po, after sharing of our reactors, you are free to take part in this conversation. Kindly click na lang yung ating raise hand button, and once you are recognized, you may unmute your mic and open your video to speak. So just a reminder lang po sa ating mga open forum participants, please make your question or sharing of insight brief and concise. So I would also like to note din po that there will only be one question per participant due to time constraint po. And ayan, we would like to give a lot of people the chance to participate, no? So we will be reading po the questions that we have collected then from the Google form. And now po, we will have the reaction. So our first share po is Dr. Hilda Gail Gomez, the counselor, Naga City, Sangguniang Panlunsod, and faculty of the Psychology Department of the Ateneo de Naga University. Hello, Ma'am Gail. Are you here po?
Good afternoon.
Ayan, good afternoon, ma'am.
Sige po. I actually do not know where to start in terms of my sharing because napaka-comprehensive nung discussion ni Sir Santi. But, I will be sharing more as a psychologist, no, not really as a counselor, although may i-share din ako a little bit about what we do here in Naga. Pero yung engagement ko kasi with lalo na with community-based drug rehab program was at the start of the drug war, no. Start of the drug war here in Naga, we had 2,000 plus surrenderies and we did not know what to do. The mayor then invited me para, sabi niya, gawa ka naman ng interventions para makatulong sa mga surrenderies natin. So I was also grappling with saan ako mag-uumpisa. It was a good thing that I was invited by Dr. Regina Hechanova. I'm not sure, Sir Santi, if you met her already. So pag-usaping CPDR, drug intervention, nako, Dr. Regina Hechanova talaga yung So we work together, not together with other psychologists, other stakeholders, and then we conducted a needs analysis. No? We talked to people from QC. We did FGDs with the surrenderies themselves, with the families. with the LGU, no, so, to put together a particular program. Sayang lang konti na lang yung time natin, hindi ko na ma-share yung results ng study, but we wanted to come up with a program. So yung major major results lang siguro no, to contextualize para mas maintindihan ng mga students natin. We found out in that study no that drug use is really not a chronic disorder. No? And then we realized from that study that marami dun sa mga surrenderies, marami actually dun sa participants, they lack coping skills and they had so many environmental triggers. No? Isa lang dun yung family. Maraming may mga nawi-witness silang violence or abuse within the community, no, maraming may problema sa kahirapan, no, yung iba hindi nakapag-aral, they had adverse childhood experiences, some of them were bullied, abused, etc. And then in terms of personality, nakita din namin that they had very low self-esteem. And they lack problem solving and planning skills.
Yes.
So wala rin silang alam no when we talk to the families during the FGDs, they did not have knowledge on drug use. There were family problems, that's why they got into drug use. So given those, sabi namin kailangan magkaroon ng set of skills no yung recipients ng program, yung surrenderies na. At the time, surrenderies pa yung tawag, hindi pa PWODs, hindi pa persons who use drugs. No? So we wanted to equip them with first drug recovery skills, no? Understanding drug use, what's their understanding their motivation to change, how can they cope with cravings, no? How can they manage external triggers, how do they say no, pero we wanted to see this as a health problem.
Yes.
Ayaw namin siyang tingnan na social problem lang kasi lalong tataas kasi yung stigmatization.
Correct.
Pag ganon. But if we look at this as a health problem, ihihilera natin siya kunwari dun sa may lagnat,
diabetes,
hanggang sa meron ka ng more serious illnesses, diabetes, hanggang sa mas critical illnesses na siya. That way, pwedeng mabago yung tingin ng tao, no? Regarding this. Pero sabi namin, later on, gusto namin na hindi lang yung dahil ina-address namin yung drug problem. So we also wanted that later on, they have to learn how to reintegrate in the community. So kailangan matuto sila ng life skills.
Correct.
So ano yung life skills na kailangan? Kasi nakita natin yung problem ganito. So sabi namin, dapat matuto na mag-manage ng emotions.
Yes.
Dapat may interpersonal skills sila. Tapos sana ma-rebuild yung relationships kasi yung iba, sabi nga, may problems within the family, no? Tapos, ang laki ng role ng problem solving. So, sabi namin, dapat matuto sila doon, no? And then, pinaka-importante sa lahat, tingnan din yung strength nila. Kasi, stigmatized nga sila. So, parang every time people talk about them, parang ang nega-nega nila sa mga tao. So, kailangan ma-build up yung confidence na makita nila, saan ako magaling? Saan ako pwede mag-umpisa ulit? No, from my internal sources, ano yung meron ako para pag okay na ako, may kakayahan ako no na mag-reintegrate sa community, sa mga dati kong kaibigan, sa pamilya ko, and then later on pwede na ako makapaghanap ng trabaho or I can go back to school, no? So yun. Pero ang laki-laki ng role ng family. So we also made sure no that we had family modules at hand. So actually may 3 modules for the family. So yung una drug education din, no? So drugs and their effects. And then we also wanted to let them know kung ano yung role ng family din in drug use. Pero mas importante, gusto namin ipaalam and send a message ano ang role ng family in recovery.
Yes.
So yun po yung aming study and then the modules that we created. So we wanted this to be really evidence-based. So ayaw namin yung parang hearsay lang or kasi naririnig lang na ganito daw. No?
Yes.
Ngayon, ayaw din namin na wala kaming theoretical foundations kasi mostly talaga po no, from the Psychological Association of the Philippines, mga nanggagaling kami sa academe. So gusto din namin may theoretical foundation. So we banked on motivational interviewing, no, we banked on cognitive behavior therapy. Then of course, we looked into family systems. Pero yung pinaka hina-highlight talaga namin is the concept of mindfulness. Kasi ang dami ng research lumabas na yung mindfulness is a very important process no in recovery and rehabilitation. So yun yung ginawa namin at the end of the PAP. So ngayon, if I might still share no on the experience of Naga City naman. So paano na nag-connect yung Naga doon? Ayun na nga, no, I worked with the PAP and then sa sobrang engagement ko, medyo national pa yung efforts natin. I was elected as chair of the Psychological Association of the Philippines Substance Use Prevention Recovery Special Interest Group. So hindi lang Naga yung natingnan ko, medyo nakapag-ikot din ng konti no, sa ibang LGUs. And then I also joined Dr. Jean Hechanova with USAID Renew Health. USAID Renew Health, talagang we were already working with the government. No? So isa ang Naga sa recipient ng Renew Health program. No? So ang ginawa was, nagkaroon kami ng MOA with USAID Renew Health, and then we trained community facilitators. No? Ang maganda po sa Naga City kasi mayaman tayo sa volunteers. No? Pakainin mo lang yon, di sila humingi ng bayad. So we trained them, we equipped them with the skills na necessary to run the modules to the community. Kasi sa screening po na ginawa, majority no of the surrenderies at the time nasa mild to moderate use sila. So community-based talaga yung kailangan na approach. Hindi naman sila lahat kailangan i-rehab eh. Kasi ang konti lang actually ng severe cases namin. And marami din yung mild. So pero at the time, wala pa yung general intervention. At the time, talagang nakatuto kami sa community-based. So, ngayon medyo because of USAID Renew Health, may funding na nakuha, napalago po namin yung yung program. Lumaki yung modules, nagkaroon na ng KKDK yung tawag ng katatagan kontra droga sa komunidad. Ngayon, naging katatagan, kalusugan at kamayan sa komunidad na siya. And it's now recognized by the Dangerous Drugs Board, endorsed to all LGUs actually as a model for CBDR or community-based drug recovery. Tapos nakakatuwa kasi ang daming contribute no na ma-improve yung program. So we did further studies. Nakita namin kailangan ma-address din yung minors. So we had KKDK for kids. And then nakiiwanan yung yung mga mild users natin. So dinesign na rin yung general intervention. Ang tawag namin po dito yung ginhawa. So general intervention on health and well-being awareness program.
Nice.
Ngayon, may KKDK for women na rin na dinidesign. Kasi like dito sa Naga, meron kaming case na isang pamilya sila. Magkakapatid, pati yung nanay. No? So, paano yung recovery kung ultimo yung parents talaga ganun din. No? So, importante din yung may program din for women. And ngayon po, pinupush na rin natin. No? So, I'm glad that before I left USAID Renew Health, medyo may na-contribute tayo dun sa aftercare program. Dito sa Naga, ito yung tinututukan po namin, yung aftercare. Kasi parang after they go through the community-based program, paano yung reintegration? Actually, mas mahirap yun.
Mas mahirap pag nasa labas na sila.
Yeah. So, right now, we're looking into private partners. No, sabi namin, sana yung may private partners, business owners, etc. na pwedeng mag-ampon sa kanila na makapagtrabaho no, sa mga negosyo nila. We're also working together with ALS, yung Alternative Learning System, na kasi yung iba sa kanila, hindi na modules, hindi na sessions ang kailangan. Kailangan na yung more practical ways of reintegrating like education, employment. No? Tapos sabi namin, kailangan yung community service para may sense of community sila. Yung sense of responsibility, mai-imbibe natin sa kanila. So, yung iba po, ini-engage namin sa DRRM department namin. So, dine-training namin sila on first aid, no? Basic lang, no? Basic lang ng first aid, basic din ng disaster response, no? And then, yung mga rabus-rabus na tawag, no, na naglilinis sila sa barangay, pinapatulong din namin sila. Pero we want to, level up their engagement. Ayaw namin na hanggang linis na lang sila sa barangay. Ayaw namin na hanggang, takbuhan sila pag mayroong mga i-repair sa bahay. So, ngayon po, yung pinupush ko talaga sa amin, ang Naga City po kasi yung City Anti-Drug Abuse Council namin. Institutionalized po ito, Sir Santi.
Yes. Ma'am, na-invite po ako dyan, ma'am, one time. Sa inyo pong City Anti-Drug Abuse Council, yung mga po natin ay mga barangay officials, mga barangay captain. I was one of the speakers. Pero ma'am, very promising po yung inyong yung pag-collate po dun sa intervention para doon sa mga mga nagkaroon ng maling desisyon sa buhay. Pero meron din po kayo ma'am yung sa prevention because that's my expertise Parang not leading into the use. Parang ang kampanya natin is wag talagang tumikim. So parang, di ba, you mentioned about life skills kasi, life skills na nandun na gumamit na. Pero there's life skills that we can actually teach etong especially mga estudyante para hindi talaga sila tumikim. And it's also the same line
po. Sa city, no, we were also able to push for an ordinance na integrated po siya sa curriculum.
Nice, very nice.
So, extra mile ka sa mga estudyante kasi meron silang additional hours. No? So, ito yung nasa prevention part. Plus, in the barangay, talagang massive yung campaign. And then, we are now introducing a family program na hindi lang yung drug use ang ina-address pero lahat na ng mga risk problems
Ma'am, I just don't know if you're familiar kasi yung United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes dito sa Philippines, UNODC, they have adopted actually an evidence-based program. Medyo expensive yung program pero dinala nila dito sa Pilipinas. May mga recipients na I hope Naga will become one of the recipients.
Sure.
Yung
parang hindi tayo dapat mag-stop.
Correct.
No? Along all the areas, ilan ng Ateneo, ano yung